G'day, g'day, g'day. Hmm. So, apologies for forgetting about this yesterday. I forgot we were doing this on Wednesdays on the regular, but we're going to be back to it. Hmm. In good news, this game now has a proper category, seeing as I added it. Hmm. Took some doing. I didn't know you could personally add categories to the database thing that Twitch uses, but you can. It's sort of a vaguely semi-Wikipedia-like approach where you have to submit things and then they get approved by someone else or verified. But it's not that miserable. Mm. Okay, let's lose that noise. That looks good. Enjoy our last little bit. Get our atmospheric background noise. Pretend we're sitting in a wing-backed, leather-pressed, studded chair in front of a fire. Okay. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! And let's update this. Seeing as we're now after the 4. Hello and welcome back to Lone Plays Lone Wolf Saga. Here as part of Lone Wolf Wednesdays. This is the start of recording session 2. I am happy to say that I am enjoying these. Even if they don't quite hold up to as amazing and fantastic as child me remembers them, I think they're still pretty good. Okay, Chasm of Doom. The story so far. Ruanan is a remote mining province to the south of your homeland of Summerland, nestling between the sullen peaks of the Derncrag and Makan Mountains. The people of this province have long prospered from their toil in the ore-rich mines, living and enjoying their wealth under the protection of their lord, Baron Vanalund. The gold and gems that are mined at Ruanan yield an important source of revenue to your homeland. The heavily guarded convoy wagons that leave the province and journey to the capital have become a regular monthly routine. A routine that had never been broken until a month ago, when suddenly all contact with Ruanan ceased. A troop of 150 cavalry from the King's Guard were immediately dispatched to investigate the whereabouts of the missing convoy. Their commanding officer, Captain Deval, was ordered to report back to the king as soon as contact was made, but he and his men have yet to return. They too have disappeared without a trace. The king has summoned you, Lone Wolf, last of the Kai Lords, to his citadel in Holmgard. Your quest is to find Captain Deval and his men, discover what has happened to the missing convoy, and to uncover the veil of mystery that hangs over Ruanan. The king has gathered a company of border rangers, a unit of elite scouts, all of whom are skilled in horsemanship and outdoor survival. He has ordered these 50 men to accompany you in the hope that, with your leadership, they may succeed where the larger and more visible force has failed. As you and your men enter the Royal Armoury to equip yourself for the long ride ahead, you glimpse a black crow perched on a high window ledge. Above, it flies away, but not before a shiver runs down your spine. In Holmgard, the crow is a bird of ill omen. We get to pick another skill. So do we want mind defense, weapon skill, or camouflage? I'm going to go with hiding, I think. Blah, blah, blah. You may add 10 gold plus what you roll to your list of monies, which isn't actually that big, but you can't carry more than 50 forwards between games. So we got 11 gold crowns. Healing potion. I've got a sword and a dagger. Meal, potion, meal, rope, potion. An ever-increasingly large number of magical, well, special items. I'm inclined to say 2 meals. On the other hand, we could really use the chainmail waistcoat. For more health. You know what? Sure. Let's grab that waistcoat and then a meal. Oh, I was meant to take more meals. Oh well. Your mission will be fraught with danger. You're about to venture into the bleak... You usually only get to pick 2 items. This adventure let us pick 6. Whoops! Use the map to help you plot your course. Make notes of your as you progress through the story. They will be of great help in future adventures. Blah, 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 blah. Same as before. Okay. For 3 days, you lead your brave company of rangers across the lush plains of southern Summerland. On the first stage of your urgent mission, the flat, treeless fields surround you with a seemingly endless expanse of wheat, so high that even though you are in the saddle, it reaches well above your knees. The horses seem to be swimming through a vast yellow sea of corn that is only interrupted by occasional tracks or groups of isolated farmhouses. The southerners welcome your sudden appearance, but you only make the briefest of stops for food and rest, neither wishing to risk becoming a burden nor alarm the good people with your mission. By noon on the 4th day, you reach the pass of Moitura. Here, the plains give way to the broken foothills of the Derncrag Mountains. You soon reach a highway, the surface cracked and full of potholes, heading off towards the south. It is the notorious Ruanan Pike. South of the pass, the Ruanan Pike crosses 100 miles of open territory known as Raiders Road. Bandit tribes from the wildlands and Giaquar bands from the mountains of the west frequently ambush those who travel this pike, and regular shipments of gold and gems have sometimes yielded rich pickings to these merciless robbers. Point and flank as you shout. Immediately, 3 groups of rangers peel away from the column and spur their horses to a gallop. You watch with pride as the expert horsemen take up their scouting positions to the front and sides of the company. It is late afternoon when a scout approaches the company from the west. He points towards a craggy outcrop where a thin spiral of wood smoke betrays a hut hidden beneath the overhanging rock. If you wish to investigate the hut, if you wish to continue to ride, turn to the respective pages. Sure, let's investigate the hut. An escort of 5 rangers accompanies you along the twisting narrow track that leads to the hut. The rough stone walls are covered with a damp moss, into which is set a curious oval door. There are no windows. You dismount and approach the door when suddenly a man's voice calls from inside the hut. "Come in, I've been expecting you." Okay. In the dim light, you see an old man seated at a table. The flicker of a log fire is all that illuminates his foul-smelling hovel, yet it sheds enough light for you to see the clutter of charts and strange instruments that crowd the hut. The man slowly raises his gaze from a large crystal sphere and bids you sit opposite him. Actually, Rainy Mood needs to be a little bit warmer. "You know my name. How?" you ask warily. "The stars foretold our meeting long ago," Lone Wolf, he replies, passing his withered old hands around the sphere. "Be not alarmed by my knowledge, I only wish to aid you." He produces a small scroll of parchment from within his robe and hands it to you. Upon the scroll is written the following verse: "When the full moon shines over the temple deep, a sacrifice will stir from sleep the legions of a long-forgotten lord. When a fair loyal maid on the altar dies, the dead of Machengorge shall rise to claim their long-awaited reward." You ask the meaning of the strange verse, but the old man does not answer you. He seems to have fallen into a deep trance. You lean across the cluttered table to awaken him and are shocked to see your hand pass straight through his body. Gradually, his image begins to fade. Within seconds, he's disappeared completely. You place the scroll in your pocket and quickly leave the hut, pausing only to wipe the cold sweat from your brow. So we have this rhyme, totally not about an undead army. You've ridden less than 5 miles when you see a group of wagons on the highway ahead. They're painted in a gaudy mix of bright colours and drawn by a team of oxen. A huge tasseled banner flies above them, which bears the following proclamation: "The famous Assagia players, troubadours to the imperial courts of Magnamund." Do you wish to stop and question the travelling merchants? No. Darkness soon engulfs the Ruanan Pipe, and you are forced to stop and pitch camp. A large fire is blazing, and the perimeter guard is posted to prevent any risk of surprise attacks during the night. Eat a meal or risk losing 3 endurance points. The night passes without incident, and at dawn you break camp, continuing to ride along Raiders Road. Pick a number from the random number table. I have hunting. Random number table. We roll low. After journeying through the rich wheat fields of southern Sutherland, the view that lies before you looks especially bleak and colourless. The landscape is flat and desolate, only relieved here and there by a ragged copse of stunted firs or mound of broken earth. You have entered the wildlands south of the pass of Matuya and cannot use hunting anymore. During the afternoon, storm clouds gather above the peaks of the Derncrag Mountains to the west. and the roll of distant thunder warns of imminent rain. It is early evening when your scouts report the ruins of an old temple, less than a mile from the highway. Sure, let's go to the temple. Ruined temple, what could go wrong? The ruins are overgrown with weeds and roots, but you can make out the shape of the inner sanctum of the temple quite distinctly. The huge marble canopy is still intact, and will serve as an excellent shelter from the storm. As you tie your horse to a withered shrub, you glance up to see two men hiding beneath the canopy, dressed in long black robes. You order them to come out and identify themselves. They neither move nor answer your call. Capture them alive! Your men draw their swords and advance on their strangers. The hooded men immediately raise their hands and emerge from beneath the stone canopy. One of them drops a small earthenware flask full of clear liquid that shatters on the hard marble floor. A search for their clothing reveals 12 gold crowns and enough food for 2 meals. Make the necessary adjustments on your action chart. Around their necks they wear wooden amulets carved in the likeness of a small fish. Okay. Food, meal. Getting very full of meals. We possess healing. You instantly recognize the amulets. They are the symbols of the holy order known as the Redeemers, a silent order of pilgrims devoted to a lifetime of prayer and healing. You apologize for your hasty reaction. The holy men nod their shaven heads in forgiveness. Your men have pitched camp beneath the marble canopy, and preparations are soon underway for a good night's sleep. You are hungry and must eat. I'm not allowed to use hunting. Turn to 233. Your rest is disturbed by the anxious shout of the night guards. Awake, awake, we are under attack. Throwing back their blankets, your men leap to their feet, peering through the teeming rain at the shadowy silhouettes of horsemen circling the ruins. An arrow whistles through the darkness, and your lookout screams and falls to his knees. Form a circle, keep behind cover. The rangers gather swords and shields and press themselves against the wet temple marble for protection. The sound of metal-shod boots on stone makes you spin around. A dozen warriors, dressed in shiny red armor, are clambering across the broken pillars. 2 rangers run to block their advance, but are felled by one sweep of the warriors. Warrior leaders a broadsword. Then the warrior sees you and quickens his pace, his bloodied sword raised to strike again. You cannot evade combat and must fight them to the death. We absolutely dominate. Holy moly. Shield. Special silver helmet. Summer sword. Mind blast. Butter scratch. Your rest is disturbed by the anxious shout of the night guard. Awake, awake. We are under attack. Throwing back their blanket. Oh no, that was what we've done. If you win, return to this. All around the ruins echo. All around you, the ruins echo to the clash of weapons and the screech of battle cries. The armor-clad horsemen are no ordinary bandits. They fight with a skill and discipline unheard of among the lowly outlaws of the wildlands. You step over the dead warrior and call about you a handful of your own men. The enemy have surrounded your horses, and you must act quickly if you are to save them from being taken. You lead a charge through the ruins, piercing the enemy line. They falter and flee into the darkness. By the time you've reached the temple perimeter, only 11 of your horses remain, and the others have vanished. After much thought, you decide to choose 10 rangers to continue the mission with you, sending the remainder of your company back to Summerland to report what has happened. As the gloomy light of dawn fills the sky, you and your chosen companions bid a sad farewell to those who must march back on foot. We got a really, really low roll. After many hours riding, you reach a highway junction. You have left the wildlands and may once again use hunting to hunt. A large signpost indicates 2 directions, south to Rannon and east to Ensha. We're meant to go to Ruanan, so south to Ruanan. It is almost dark when you reach the edge of a densely forested valley. You can just make out the highway disappearing into the trees ahead. and catch sight of a signpost pointing towards the south. You are now only 40 miles from Rhiannon, but your men are tired and in need of food and rest. No, let's not press on then. Sure, set up camp. The night passes without incident, and you awaken refreshed by your sleep. Heal 1. After breaking camp, you enter the forested valley. Your warrior instincts warn you that the highway would be an ideal place for an ambush. The densely packed trees lining the roadside would easily conceal an attacker. You send 3 of your men on ahead with orders to report back if they should sight anything unusual. After travelling some distance, you come across the wreck of a burnt-out wagon, abandoned at the side of the road. Behind it, a track disappears eastward up to the hills. There is no sign of your scouts, who ought to have returned to report this abandoned wreck. Sure, investigate the wagon. No cargo remains inside the charred shell of the wagon. The wood is black and the metal fittings are buckled and blistered in heat. However, in spite of the damage, you find enough proof from the ashes to confirm your suspicions. This is the wreck of a Summerlanding cavalry wagon, one of the 3 that left for Rhiannon with Captain Duval's troop a month ago. As you stand in the wagon, brushing the ash from your hands, one of your men suddenly cries out in pain. You glance up in time to see him fall from his horse, a disc of sharp steel embedded in his chest. "Ambush! Take cover!" you shout, as more of the deadly discs whistle from the trees to claim their victims. Frightened horses gallop in all directions, and your men desperately cling to their reins. The attackers vanish as quickly as they came, but not before 3 of your men are left dead upon the highway. After burying your dead, you must decide on the best course of action. Now only 4 horsemen remain at your side, and the hidden enemy could return at any time. Sure, we'll go along the highway at full speed. It is noon before you are forced to call a halt. G'day, Mama. Not Jeff, Jeffrey, and Big Jeff. You have reached the edge of a ridge, where the highway begins a long descent towards a wide wooden bridge. This is the Rhiannon Bridge. You recognize its stout black timbers and the dark waters of the River Zane that flow beneath. On the far side of the bridge lie the fire-blackened ruins of an inn and the unmistakable silhouette of bandit horsemen. At the entrance to the bridge is a white signpost pointing across the bridge to the south. Rhiannon, 12 miles. You know it would be suicidal to attempt to cross the bridge. The bandit horsemen each carry a heavy crossbow slung from their saddle. Let's go have a look at the map. Ooh, so this map is further south than any map we've had so far. So which way do I want to go to attempt to cross to Rhiannon down here? We can go this way or this way. Presumably if this is a lake, I think we'll go west. On the other hand, west leads off the page. So let's go east because I don't want to head towards the edge of the map. You lead your men in a single file into the forest. In less than a minute, the trees have become so dense you're unable to continue on horseback. You dismount and hide your horses before continuing on foot. By a great stroke of luck, you find a narrow track leading to a ramshackle boathouse at the edge of the River Zane. It contains a boat and you ought to be able to cross with ease. Investigate the boathouse. With one sharp blow of the edge of your hand, you smash the lock on the boathouse door. Your curiosity is soon rewarded by the sight of an upturned rowing boat resting upon a pair of trestles. A pair of pitch stands, a pail of pitch stands beneath it. From the layer of dust covering the surface of the boat, you judge that it has stood undisturbed for several months. Sure, search the rest of the boathouse. You find the following things: pickaxe, shovel, axe, torch, tinderbox, hourglass. If you wish to keep any, mark them on your action chart. Sure. Hourglass. Do I want to go down to 2 meals and keep the tinderbox? I feel like I want the tinderbox. Yep, goodbye meal. Hello tinderbox. That'll do me nicely. On the far side of the boathouse, a narrow slipway descends to a door at river level. One of your men hurries over and raises the stout drawbar while the others carry the rowboat down the ramp. You push off and clamber aboard, emerging from the boathouse with such a jolt that you are thrown forward in a heap. By the time you've disentangled yourself, the boat is firmly in the grip of the river current. You grab an oar and fight to keep the boat in the center of the rushing water as it speeds on its course through the foothills of the Machen range. No sooner has the boat been brought under control, you are confronted by an unexpected hazard. Ahead of you, the river suddenly disappears into the rock face beneath a massive granite ledge. It is too late to avoid being swept into the inky black cavern, and as you glide into the darkness, you prepare yourselves for any dangers hidden therein that may lurk inside. The ceiling of the cavern is so low you are forced all to press yourself against the bottom of the boat in order to avoid head injuries. For nearly an hour, the boat is swept through a maze of underground waterways before coming to a sudden halt. You are grounded upon the bank of shingle. You are in a section of the tunnel that is much higher than you've previously travelled. To the south, the river continues into the rock face, but to the west you notice another shingle bank and a land tunnel beyond. No, we've had enough of this river, thank you. We'll continue on foot. You are halfway across the underground river when the inky black water begins to seethe and boil. You cling to the gunwale, urge your men to row for all that they are worth. The turbulent water now threatens to capsize your crowded little boat. Suddenly, a hideous, grayish-green tentacle breaks through the surface. Like a whiplash, it crashes down, splintering wood and cracking bone as it coils around 2 of your men. Before you can draw your weapon, they've been dragged down into the bubbling depths. Then another tentacle rises, snaking towards you. It stabs at your chest and tries to butt you overboard. Pick a number from the random number table. If your endurance is 20 or more, add 3 if you've picked that number. If your current endurance is 12 or less, deduct 2. I've rolled really shittily. You were winded by the blow to your chest and flung backwards into the icy cold water. You surface, but barely in time to catch your breath before a tentacle coils around your legs and starts to drag you down. Pick a number from the random number table. Note this down on your action chart. The number represents the number of rounds that you can survive underwater before you begin to lose extra health due to lack of oxygen. If you have mind over matter, you can add 2 to the number you have picked. Fight combat in the normal way. If the fight lasts longer than the number of rounds you can endure underwater, you will lose 2 extra hit points for every round of combat thereafter. Giant mare squid. Oh, it's got half out. It's got a lot of health, though. Probably 2 more attacks. Alright. Your enemy was able to stab you before you killed him, though he didn't do that much harm. We win combat, so turn to 32. The hideous creature uncoils itself from your legs and sinks into the water. You are elated by your victory, but your lungs feel as if they are on fire. You claw your way upwards until you eventually reach the surface, choking and gasping for air. The only sign of the rowboat and your men that remains on the surface of the dark and dreadful river is a splintered oar floating nearby. You hook your arm over this and drift with it towards the far bank. A check of your backpack and pockets reveals nothing was lost during your struggle, though this comes as cold comfort, as your company is no more. Steeling yourself against the unknown dangers that may lie ahead, you resolve to reach Ruanan and cover the veil of mystery that surrounds it, though first you must allow yourself one last look at the Black River before you enter the tunnel. You follow the tunnel for 3 hours before arriving at a great hall where several tunnels, all at different depths, meet up. A series of wide stone ramps connects each tunnel to those immediately above and below. 4 levels below you, teams of men are pushing wagons of ore. Others, dressed in red armor, so like the baddies that attacked us earlier, stand guard over the wagon pushers and urge them on with whips and curses. The tunnel in which you stand is on the highest level. You realize that the only way you can proceed is by descending the ramp to a tunnel on a lower level. To your dismay, you notice that each of the ramps is guarded by armed men. Inching forwards, you peer over the edge of the ramp. 2 guards sit near the tunnel entrance. They are laughing and giggling and pointing at an empty wine flagon that lies at their feet. After watching for several minutes, you decide that they are probably too drunk to notice you, and you decide to make a dash for the tunnel. Pick a random number from the table. If you possess camouflage, our newest skill, add 4 to the number you have picked. We roll well. You slip past the guards and enter the tunnel unseen. It is wide and illuminated by a line of wall torches whose guttering flames crackle and splutter noisily. You soon arrive at a junction where the tunnel narrows and divides into 2. If you have sixth sense or tracking, turn here. You notice that the right tunnel is newly excavated, and you sense that it is yet to be completed. Rather than be caught in a dead end, push on along the left tunnel. The tunnel emerges into a large chamber, divided by a deep mine shaft. The dark-skinned warrior, in tatty leather armor, stands guard at the entrance to a wooden bridge spanning the shaft. He is whittling a block of wood and grumbling to himself about how unfair it is that he has been given the most boring of duties. On the far side of the chamber, the tunnel disappears into the west wall. You know that if you are to reach the tunnel, you must get past the guard and cross the bridge. If you have camouflage, turn to 35. If you have mind over matter, turn to 317. If you have neither and choose to launch a surprise attack on the guard, turn to this. I want to use mind over matter. You concentrate your powers and direct them at the outcrop of loose shale overhanging the shaft on the opposite side of the chamber. In seconds, there is a crack of slate and stone as part of the outcropping crumbles away and falls into the gaping mine shaft. The guard is startled by this sudden noise and leaves his post to investigate. Without a moment's hesitation, you dash across the empty bridge and disappear into the tunnel beyond. So we Jedi drop some rocks, the rocks distract him, and we sprint across. Less than 50 yards along the tunnel, you notice a lever. Your Kai instinct makes you naturally suspicious of this unnatural feature, and you scour the floor, looking for evidence of a trap. You find none, though a glance at the roof reveals the underside of a wide portcullis hidden between 2 beams. You pull the lever and the portcullis falls, sealing off the tunnel behind you. To make sure you will not be followed, you smash the lever with a wedge of stone before continuing along the tunnel. You are hungry and must eat. If you use you can't use hunting because you're inside the mine. There we go. Eat meal. A line of empty ore wagons lie parked along a stretch of track that disappears into the west wall of the gallery. Above the arced tunnel, a flight of wooden stairs leads to a smaller passage lit by a spluttering torch. You stay hidden in the shadows, watching the gallery for half an hour before you are satisfied that it's safe to enter. You have tracking, or you're an aspirant or higher, turn to this. Sure. We do have tracking. Judging by the smoothness of the stone floor and the condition of the ore wagons, you deduce that the gallery services a major section of the mines. A fresh breeze is felt blowing from the west tunnel, and you believe yourself to be near the surface. Burannon lies due west, the same direction as the ore wagon tunnel. You take a breath and emerge from the shadows, cross the gallery, and quietly enter the archway beyond. As you make your way along the torchlit tunnel, you pass several ore wagons bearing the same design branded upon their wooden sides. A cross Mo Moline? What does Moline mean? Heraldry. Having arms of equal length of a cross. Having arms of equal length split and curved back at the ends, used especially as the cadency mark of an eighth sun. An eighth sun. Good lord. If you wish to dive in one of the empty ore wagons, turn to this page. If you wish to hide in the shadows of the rough tunnel wall, yes. You wait with bated breath as the line of haggard men files past you, past your barely concealed hiding place. An escort of bandit warriors urge them forwards, beating those who falter or step out of line. Each man is forced to take hold of a wagon and push it back along the tunnel. Soon they have all disappeared from view. You wait, and when you are sure that the coast is clear, you step back into the tunnel and press on, taking care to keep well in the shadows. You reach a point where the tunnel emerges into daylight. To your left, a dense copse has been cut back from the entrance, and wagon tracks lead to a timber gantry above a mound of ore. The men and the guards who passed you are now at the gantry, but they fail to see you sprint from the entrance and dive into the tree line. A brief pause for breath is all you allow yourself before setting off through the trees towards Ruanan. The trees are alive with bandit patrols. Your quick wits and high skills prevent you from being seen. Eventually you reach the edge of the copse. You find yourself staring out across an expanse of open plain towards Ruanan. The sight that lies before you is rather disquieting. Much of the mining town has been burnt to the ground. The blackened ruins of what were once shops, cottages and taverns are little more than smouldering mounds of charcoal. You are beginning to fear the worst, that Ruanan has been completely destroyed, when a gentle breeze clears the haze of wood smoke hanging like a grey curtain over the ruins. Inside the perimeter of ruined buildings, a barricade has been thrown up around a tower of stone. Above the tower, a tattered flag still flies, bringing renewed hope. It is the sun flag of Summerland, edged with a band of white braid, the cavalry standard of the King's Guards Regiment. The sudden crack of a twig makes you freeze. You glance behind to see 3 bandits creeping through the trees towards you. The wide steel tips of their spears glint at you. They seem to be coated with a clear, sticky fluid. If you possess hunting or have ever visited Corn Grove, we do have hunting. It's going to be that bloody sap, isn't it, again? One that makes you sleep. No, it's different. Maybe. Leaping to your feet, you race away, recognizing the poison. From all along the forest edge, groups of bandits emerge, whipped and scolded by their bullying sergeants for allowing you to escape. This spurs you to quicken your pace, and you cover the first 100 yards with ease. Then arrows begin to fall around you. You duck and weave, making yourself a difficult target, and gradually the falling shafts dwindle in number. You smile at their futile efforts to stop you. But your confidence is soon shaken by a pack of snarling warhounds breaking from the woods to your right. They are off the leash and hungry for blood. You are less than 500 yards from Ruanan, but the warhounds are closing. We don't try and outrun Doggo. Turn and fight. The warhounds lope towards you at an unnerving speed. Good morning, Salar. You can see their great red-lipped jaws clearly and hear the clacking of their fangs. You fight to control your breathing, to concentrate all your warrior skills. You must dispatch them quickly and with precision if you are to avoid being torn to pieces. 2 dogs, faster than their brothers, break free of the pack and close upon you. They leap simultaneously, their slavering jaws spread wide for attack. You dive forward and roll, striking at their bellies from beneath as they pass above. Both howl with rage and pain and tumble lifeless to the ground. You are back to your feet when the next warhounds attack. Vas Argonian Warhound. It has not that much health, I would suspect that it... Oh, insta-kill! We got critical success. If you win this combat in 3 rounds or less, turn to this page. Or this section, I should say. Beyond the approaching Warhound pack, you see that a dozen bandit archers are closing in. If you were to survive the rending jaws of the Warhounds, the archers would be sure to pick you off with ease. Without wasting a second, you turn towards Ruanan and run as fast as your legs can carry you. You try to ignore your aching legs and the fear that knots your stomach by forcing your concentration on the sun flag, a fluttering symbol of hope in the distance. Your face is streaked with sweat, and your lungs feel as though they will burst. But you dare not slacken your pace. The thought of the Warhound's fangs closing and tugging on your skin is all that you need to drive yourself forwards. At 400 yards, you can see that the barricade and watchtower are inhabited, but at this distance, the faces you can see are only a small pink dots on the walls. At 300 yards, you run into some gruesome remains. The corpses of bandits lie twisted on the ground, most killed by arrows. Many have lain in the open for weeks, and a flock of startled carrion crows rise, shrieking from their feast as you race through the bodies. You turn away in disgust. Suddenly, a new sound drifts across the plain, the sound of cheering. The beleaguered defenders have spotted you and recognize your green cloak. 200 yards to go, you've passed the ruins of a burnt-out cottage and you feel an agonizing pain tear through your left thigh. An arrow has pierced your leg and you pitch forward into the ash and mud. Crouched in the ruined cottage, a bandit sniper raises his bow and takes careful aim at your head. Oh no! Roll on the random number table. An arrow hisses overhead, a scream of agony fills the air. The bow slips from the archer's fingers as he sinks to his knees. An arrow lodged deep between his startled eyes. The clack of fangs and the soft, swift pad of stealthy feet tell you that the Warhounds are still closing. You look up to see a man running towards you from the barricade. He had a shield in one hand and a long bow in the other. It is Guard Captain Duval. He reaches you, breathless from his run, and draws an arrow from his quiver. He aims and fires, drawing another arrow as soon as the first is loosed. The Warhounds tumble and crash to the ground around you, felled by his deadly shafts. 8 lie dead before his quiver is empty. The captain grabs you by the arm and, swinging you over his shoulder in one swift motion, carries you towards the barricade. Others run forward to help you, but the bandit archers are now in range and your men are forced back by the hail of arrows. The red shafts of the enemies whistle past on all sides. You reach the barricade, a wagon is pushed aside, and you're carried through the gap. Captain Duval is close to exhaustion. He staggers, and his men rush to catch him before he drops to the ground. A circle of unshaven faces is staring down at you. One soldier cradles your leg as another snaps the shaft buried deeply in your thigh. Before you can cry out in pain, he has drawn the arrow from your leg with a swift tug. "You're very lucky, my lord," he says as he bandages a handful of lamb's spur to your aching limb. "The wound is clean and the bleeding is but slight. Loose for help." However, with the soldier's quick thinking and skill, your leg is saved from infection. With great care, the soldier carries both you and Captain Duval over to the watchtower. "I was hoping the king would send a search party," says Captain Duval wryly, now having fully recovered from his exhaustion. "I was beginning to tire of this town." You rise from your straw bed and offer your thanks to the captain. His brave and timely action had saved you from a certain death. "'Tis nothing to compare with you, Lone Wolf. Your bravery is legend, and your presence worth 100 men." He asks you of your mission, and you recount the events that led you to this meeting. The ride south, the loss of your company, your passage through the mines, and the bandits. Yes, the bandits. Baraka's men, retorts Duval, his gruff voice conveying his contempt for them and their leader. "Did you make a mistake?" It depends what you're buying it for, Salah. If you're buying it because you expect a long campaign, then very, very possibly yes. If you're buying it because you want to gaze in enraptured stunned silence at the beauty of the shore, then no. Because good gosh does that train look pretty in that game. It seems we have both suffered at his hand. A month ago, he and the Vasagonian renegades ambushed my troop to the Ruanan Pike. We were sorely outnumbered, and the fight was indeed bitter. The only thing I would say is that it's ridiculously fast. Like, the stats on that train are not sensible, and they do not reflect reality at all. They've made it into like a high-speed, silly train, instead of it's actually a slow train, but one that can actually handle grades. But we broke free from them and escaped here to Ruanan. We have been beleaguered ever since and praying for help to arrive. We've enough weapons to resist them. We've barely enough food and water to survive. I'm out here leaking classified... Hey, Vama, that's, yo, not cool. I might need to work in defense again. Not cool, Vama. The bandits, Baraka's men... Oh no, we had that. You ask what has become of the people of Ruanan. Most are now slaves. Baraka has taken the mines, and he uses the Ruanese as forced labor. Other than yourself, only one man has escaped from the mines and survived the warhounds and the bandit snipers. That man is Baron Oren Vaneland, so the guy that was nominally the ruler of this town and area. Come, I shall take you to him. Duval leads you to the topmost chamber of the watchtower, pushing open an iron-shod door. The sight that greets you fills your heart with sorrow and pity. Yeah, I think there's probably not enough... It's not so much that there aren't enough grades, probably, Salah. It's more that they likely don't put any resources up in areas where you can only access them with grades. I'm sure with a little bit of effort they could change the design. Of the level to have some of the resources in positions that you need to either chain trains together, one that can go up a heavy grade and bring it down to a warehouse at the flat, and then get chuffed across the flats by a more suitable train. Oren Vaneland is the 15th Baron of Ruanan, a noble warrior of a noble lineage, 5th in succession to the throne of Summerland. His once proud and chivalrous warlord lies upon the cold stone floor of the chamber, red-eyed and whimpering like a frightened dog. He has lost everything. Baraka has destroyed his castle, his land, his town, his family. His sons are dead and his only daughter has been taken captive by Baraka himself. I fear the ordeal has turned his mind. The pathetic man raises his tear-stained face, and with feeble voice mutters a curious rhyme. When a fair royal maid on the altar dies, the dead of Makengord shall rise. Ah, we have the scroll. You unfurl the scroll and read its ominous contents. The Baron struggles to his feet. Word for word, he echoes the prophetic verse. When the full moon shines o'er the temple deep, a sacrifice will stir from sleep the legions of a long-forgotten lord. When a fair royal maid on the altar dies, the dead of Makengorg shall rise, to claim their long-awaited reward. You must save her, Lone Wolf. You must prevent the sacrifice. The Baron's voice is choked with emotion. Save who? Who must we save? Questions Captain Duval, as he tries to calm the distressed Baron. Well, obviously his daughter. My daughter, yes. Madeline. Barak has found the dagger of Vashna. He plans to sacrifice my daughter upon the altar of Macken to release the undead of Makengorg. The Baron explains that during the Age of the Black Moon, King Olnar of Summerland killed the mightiest of all the Dark Lords, Vashna, with the Summer Sword, the Sword of the Sun. His body, and the bodies of all his soldiers, were hurled into the bottomless abyss of Makengorg. He plans to lead the dead to victory, first to conquer Summerland, and then all of the last lands, he says in despair. You stare at the Baron in stunned silence. If Baraka completes the sacrifice, all may be lost. What mortal enemy could stand against a legion of the dead? Captain Duval ushers you from the chamber and closes the door. I fear he was insane, but your scroll confirms my worst nightmare, that he speaks the truth. As the dreadful significance of the verse begins to sink in, your thoughts are broken by the shrill blast of a war horn. Captain Duval strides over to an arrow slit and peers out across the plain. As he turns to speak, you notice his his face is ashen grey. Not his fash is ashen grey. The bandits, they're launching an attack. I do not have Captain Duval's sword, so sucks to be me. You follow Captain Duval as he hurries down the broad watchtower steps and out to the barricade. A rolling sound like distant thunder fills the air. Cavalry are pouring onto the plain from all sides. Grouping up into battalions in preparation for the advance, columns of foot soldiers in bright scarlet armour march through their ranks, herding a frightened wall of people before them. "They're Ruinese," cries Duval, his hand shielding the light from his eyes. "That cur, Baraka! He's using them as a shield!" All around you, the captain's men have drawn their bowstrings, awaiting his signal to fire. However, it is an order he dare not give. Suddenly, a hidden catapult hurls a massive black rock through the air, straight towards the barricade. You stare in horror as it bursts into flame, disintegrating, showering a rain of blazing oil on everyone beneath. The soldiers cannot evade the deluge, and many are badly burnt before the flames are smothered. A battle cry resounds from the enemy's ranks. The signal to attack. The Ruinese are pushed aside and trampled by the onrush of scarlet warriors who now race towards the barricade. Like I remember this picture. The blazing oil has scattered Duval's men, and the barricade is poorly defended. You hear Duval shout your name, his cloak and tunic ablaze. He is screaming for your help. Yes, we've completed every book, so we get to take this decision. You must rally the defenders, or all is lost. You ordered 2 soldiers to help the captain, and then leap onto an overturned wagon in order to see clearly the enemy advance. They have already reached the ruined perimeter of Ruenon, and are now creeping forwards under cover of the broken cottage walls. You shout orders to Duval's men to defend the barricade. The enemy is less than 100 yards from the wall. You are afraid it might be too late to repel their attack. As Vasagonian bandits break cover and charge, you give the order to fire. A cloud of arrows sweeps down upon the armor-clad men, the hardened tips penetrating their scarlet plate. The first wave of assailants tumbles and falls, and the second wave falters. Another volley forces them back, and they retreat to the ruins and reorganize themselves. Here and there, groups of bandit warriors have survived the hail of death. Good day, decoy. And reached the barricade. Most are slain as they try to enter, but a small and determined section of their boldest fighters have broken through close to where you stand. Suddenly, a thick-bodied warrior with oily black hair tied in a knot at the back of his scarred head leaps onto the wagon and attacks you. He's got Buckley's chance. You insta-kill him! Poor guy. If you won the fight, turn to this page. Duval runs past the wagon, leading a dozen of his best swordsmen in a countercharge, and driving the enemy all the way back to the barricade. None escape alive. Those who survived Duval's swordsmen are cut down on the plain by his archers as they run towards the ruins. The shout of victory has barely died away before you are faced by a new threat. And I remember this picture as well. A mantlet, a large shield on wheels, is pushed slowly across the body-strewn battleground towards the barricade. Arrow shafts bristle from its thick wooden planks. As Duval's men fire their bows, time and time again, in an attempt to hit the shielded foe. Suddenly, a robed figure darts from behind the mantlet and levels a black staff at the barricade. He is cut down by an arrow, but not before he has let loose from his staff a guttering ball of flame. It cartwheels across the plain and explodes with a tremendous roar, hurling the bodies and defenders, as well as a shattered barricade, high into the air. Through the cloud of dust and debris, you can see a line of enemy cavalry charging across the plain. They wear tall, plumed helmets of polished steel and breastplates of deepest crimson. In the wake of the fireball, they pour through the remains of a barricade, an attack giving no quarter. A horseman spurs his horse towards you, his lance leveled at your chest. Sure, we'll fight. The horseman is charging at you quickly. You'll only be able to fight one round of combat before the momentum of his attack carries him past you. Insta-kill! If your enemy loses more endurance points than you in this round of combat, turn to 220. I don't think there's meant to have been a, like, what if you insta-killed him option. Your blow has unhorsed him. He falls to the ground heavily, shattering his lance beneath him. He staggers to his feet. Note, he was dead. Raising the hinged eye shield of his helm, he stares at you and smiles wickedly, exposing a jagged line of black teeth. He spits his battle cry and runs towards you, unsheathing a broadsword as he closes in. Sure, smite him. Now he has no horse. Bring it. Round 2 will serve you no better than round 1. But a scratch. We've won combat, so turn to the next page. You run, half-crouched, to the barricade and prize a bow from the hands of a dead soldier. You've spotted the leader of the bandit cavalry, a tall, dark-skinned warrior with a thin, chiseled nose, rallying his horsemen at the foot of the stone watchtower. You must kill him before he can regroup his troops, or Duval and his hard-pressed men will be ridden down and mercilessly slaughtered. You notch an arrow and draw back your bowstring. The straining cord bites into your fingertips as you take aim. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have weapon skill in any weapon, add 2 to the number you have picked. Mediumly good roll. You release the arrow and it whistles through the air and buries itself deep into the mail-clad shoulder of the bandit leader. You hear his scream of pain ring out above the din of the battle, but even though he is badly wounded, he rallies his men. You stoop to grab another arrow, but to your horror, the dead soldier's quiver is empty. Looking up, you see 2 dismounted Vazagonian horsemen clambering across the barricade towards you. You throw down your bow and run to the large water cask defended by a stout summer-lending sergeant. The ground around the cask is carpeted with dead enemies. Shoot the leader, you command, pointing towards the enemy officer. The sergeant aims and fires his bow in a swift and fluid movement. The arrow arcs through the battle smoke and pierces the officer's shiny breastplate. Slowly, his cruel eyes flicker and close as he slips from the saddle. The shaft lodged deep in his heart. Outdone by an NPC, we suck. To me, Captain Duval's voice booms above the battle noise. Rally to me, Summerlending. The brave captain draws about him a shielded wedge of soldiers and charges into the flank of the enemy horsemen. They reel and buckle as the shield wedge hews its way through their company. A Vazagonian herald, his crimson armor torn and his face smeared with blood, breaks free from the battle and sounds the retreat. You watch as the surviving bandits spur their mounts to a gallop, desperate to escape through the ragged hole in the barricade. Gripped by fear and fatigue, they ride through their own foot soldiers who are advancing to support them. The infantry falter and collapse as their own cavalry rides them down. Captain Duval leads his men to the barricade and directs a lethal volley of arrows into the shattered infantry. It is the final straw. They throw down their weapons and flee from the arrows raining down upon them, out of the smoke-filled sky. A battle cry, proud and strident, pursues them across the plain. For Summerland! For Summerland! All around the barricade, the enemy are retreating in disorder. Bandit warhorns announce their withdrawal, exhorting their defeated warriors to flee. A jubilant Captain Duval emerges from the war smoke, his eyes shining like jewels beneath the rim of his battered helmet. We have triumphed, Lone Wolf, and we have vanquished our foe. All around you, the captain's men are rebuilding the barricade and tending to their wounded comrades. It sorrows you to see Summerlending dead, but you take heart at how few they are besides the enemy's losses. The captain ushers you to a watchtower where your wounds are cleaned and dressed with lambspur. Herbs restore 6 endurance points. We have beaten this foe, but I fear that it is but a temporary reprieve, says the captain, his face composed and sombre. The sacrifice of the Baron's daughter must be stopped if we are to avoid a catastrophe. Our strength shall not avail us against a foe freshly risen from the grave. The words of the verse flood your mind, and a chill runs down your spine as you realize what lies ahead. In 3 days' time, when the moon is full, Baraka will sacrifice the Baron's daughter at the buried temple of Macken, a sacrifice that will unleash the dead of Mackengorge. The Chasm of Doom! Dun dun dun! The titular title of the book. You know you must prevent the sacrifice. 50 miles south of Ruanan, the ruined city of Macken teeters on the brink of Mackengorge. A cold sweat breaks out upon your brow as you contemplate the difficulty of your mission. For you are separated from your goal by 50 miles of enemy-held territory. But there is still a flicker of hope. With the enemy in confusion and retreat, your chances of success will be higher now than before the battle. Before you set out on your journey, Captain Duval offers you a choice of the following equipment: food for 3 meals, rope, healing potion, sword and spear. I wouldn't mind another meal. We've already got rope, and our rope is better than their rope, because our rope is a long rope. No, we'll take a second meal. 2 meals, two healing potions sounds good. Adjust your inventory chart before turning to 140. Dusk soon enshrouds the beleaguered outpost of Ruanan. You use the cover of darkness to cross the body-strewn plain towards the south. An old highway trails off to Macken, but it is choked with Vazagonian warriors. They stand about in sullen groups, tending their wounded and brooding on their defeat. Even demoralized and dejected, they are still a deadly foe. It would be too dangerous to risk passing through their ranks, so you must use the forest to conceal your passage. Left or right, which will we take, for either way our heart will break? Let's go left. The forest is patrolled by bandits, but they take little interest in their guard duties and find it easy enough to avoid them in the dark. By chance, you come across a small log cabin hidden deep in the woods. A candle flickers in the window and the door is ajar. If you wish to enter the hut, sure. The door slams shut and you spin around to see a bandit leaping at you from the shadows. His head is a mass of bloodied bandages, but he is armed and determined to fight. He fights you with his back to the door and you cannot evade him. He sucks. You kill him in one attack. The door Slano. If you win combat, turn to this page. You roll the dead bandit over and you find the following upon his body. 3 glorious monies. Yes, please. A dagger and a sword. I've already got both of those, so I'm good. You wish to search the cellar. Really? You're at the bottom of a cellar ladder when the trapdoor slams shut, and you hear a bolt slide across the lock. You hammer on the trapdoor, desperately trying to escape, but your captors cover the trapdoor with a heavy oak cask and keep guard in the room above. 4 days pass before the lock slides back, but the hands that open the trapdoor are bony and fleshless. Your life and your mission end here. RIP. Well, our par for deaths per book goes up. 1 for 1. We will again choose camouflage because it was useful. And this time we know to take more stuff. We will take the chainmail. Bonus for health. Okay. This is the same. Will we go the other way? We'll go the other way. So we'll ignore the hut hidden beneath the overhanging rock. This takes us straight to the troubadours. Last time we ignored the troubadours, so let's investigate the troubadours. You signal to the driver to stop. The wagons halt, and a small moon-faced man in a bright pink tunic throws open the rear door of the leading carriage. He shouts and curses the driver as he descends the ladder, pausing only to adjust a cummerbund that barely covers his vast stomach. Seeing your men, he lets out a strangled shriek and fumbles for a short sword hanging at his side. "Bandits and robbers!" he cries, and wrestles to free his sword from its ornate scabbard. A row of anxious faces appears from the wagon windows, and the expressions change to a smile when they recognize your summer-lending uniforms. "Calm yourself, Yesu," shouts an elderly woman. These are summer-lending rangers. They will not steal your gold." Laughter ripples along the carriages as the little fat man suddenly unsheaths his sword with such force that he spins around and tumbles to the ground. "You must forgive Yesu. He means you no harm. The raiders' road made him a nervous wreck." You question the old woman, asking her where they have come from and their destination. You learn that they are a troop of players and have journeyed many miles from the native land of Kolasia in the east. They come from Asia in the east. They last played for the people of Esnar, but it was a disappointing show. It seems that the town was as quiet as a grave. Those who did come to see them were sad and sorry. They are now bowed for Holmgard, and hopefully will receive a better audience. Light is fading. Perhaps you and your men will camp with us tonight. It would be an honor. We would be happy to entertain you with songs and dancing. You see the hopeful look of eyes in your men as they await your decision. "Sure, we'll join the troubadours." The wagons are drawn into a circle and you set up camp inside. A ranger is posted to patrol the perimeter. The troubadours construct a small stage on which strides Yesu. He calls for silence before announcing the title of their play, "The Brave Warriors of Summerland," a choice that is met with hearty approval from your men. During the performance, you notice something odd. Not only is one of the actors using a real sword, but it is a type of sword only issued to officers of the cavalry of Summerland. After the play, you approach him and question him. He looks at you nervously and makes a dash for the darkness of the perimeter wagons. I have tracking, so we can track him. Though the wagons are shrouded in darkness, your high skills and senses reveal to you that he has a hiding place. You climb the ladder at the rear of a large caravan and push open the door with your weapon and enter. In the plush, candlelit interior of the caravan, you find the actor cowering beneath a blanket in the far corner. You flick the blanket aside and ask him to explain how he came to possess the sword. "I bought it in Eshnar," he stammers, "from the innkeep of the Pick and Shovel Tavern." He grasps the sword by the blade and offers it to you. "If it is your sword that I have unwittingly bought, I am sorry, take it." You grip the brass hilt and examine it closely. There is no doubt. It is a summer-lending cavalry sword, but the inscription on the blade makes your heart miss a beat. "Captain Ramir Deval, King's Guard Regiment. You wish to keep the sword? Mark it on your action chart as a weapon." Ah, shit, I'm gonna have to give up my dagger. Well, sword. Oh, it's a special weapon. I didn't realize it was a special item. I thought this was going to take up a normal weapon slot. It doesn't. Excellent. Continue. So this time when we get to defend the, defend the barricade, we will be able to give the, Captain Deval his sword. You return to the troubadour stage in time for a meal that has been prepared by your hosts. The steaming broth smells most appetizing. We will accept the meal. The food is delicious. Roll on the random number table. After a mile, you ride across the flat and desolate landscape of Rhino Pipe. No, that's the same as last time. No, it's slightly different. This is similar to the one we've read before, but slightly different. When you arrive in the late afternoon, your scouts sight a coaching tavern on the highway ahead. It is a large stone building that has been fortified. Investigate. The sound of a tolling bell drifts across the barren landscape. Windows shutters slam. Eyes peer at you from the arrow slits carved into the walls. You draw your company to a halt outside the tavern doors. We are summer-lending and seek shelter for the night and fodder for our mounts. There is a long pause before a voice answers you. What proof do you have that you're not bandits in stolen uniforms? I'll show them our badge of rank. You heard the thud of a heavy drawbar sliding back, and a burly man dressed in a leather jerkin appears at the door. Welcome to my humble inn, my lord. Pardon my suspicion, but this is a dangerous area and a mistake can cost our lives. You signal your men to stable the horses and follow the innkeeper to his tavern. The bar looks more like an armory than a drinking hole. Quivers of arrows stand beside each of the iron-studded window shutters, and racks of spears line the far wall. The place is deserted except for 3 young men, who all bear a strong resemblance to the tavern keeper. Hail, Noxart. One of them has his head swathed in bandages. You ask the keeper how much he will charge your men to billet here the night, and you are surprised to hear his reply. Nothing! Your presence here tonight will be worth more than gold to us. We've been attacked by bandits every night since the last moon. As the last of your men return to the stables, the doors are closed and barred. It has started to rain, and your men seem greatly relieved to be inside in the warm and dry. Question him about the bandit raids. These are no ordinary bandits, they are a private army. Their leader is a renegade noble from Vasagonia, called Varaka, though his men call him the Doomslayer. After the first raid, we thought he and his men would leave us alone. After all, this is a poor province, even when the road carries traffic from the mines to Ruanan and Shah. But Doomslayer and his men have stayed. It's as if they are determined to kill us at all costs. That night, the tavern keeper's son agrees to take it in turns to sit watch at the arrow slits so that you and your men can get some sleep. It's a choose-your-own-adventure RPG game, Noxart. So you'll notice we have a combat skill on the top left, hit points on the top right. You are hungry and must eat a meal or lose 3 hit points. You've been asleep for only 2 hours when you awaken by the sound of a tolling bell. Bandits! Screams the tavern keeper. Tavern keeper. They've got into the stables. You must act quickly, or the bandits will steal your horses. The tavern keeper tells you that there are 2 ways to the stables from here. You can either leave through the front door and run to the side of the tavern, or climb the stairs to the roof and jump down. Eat. Roof. A bolt of lightning gashes the stormy sky, illuminating the figures of the bandits as they creep to the stables. Crouching on the balcony, you signal your men to prepare yourselves. Dropping onto the stable roof, you discover to your dismay the clay tiles are wafer thin and splinter beneath your weight, and you crash through the flimsy roof into the hay below. Luckily, you are unharmed by the fall and regain your feet. But a bandit stands inches from your face, his sword ready to strike. Fight! Insta-kill! Your men cheer with delight at your victory and drop through the roof to join you. A hard battle follows, but the bandits are soon cleared from the stables and chased away into the stormy night. You search the stalls to discover that only 11 horses remain. The others have been stolen by the bandits. After careful thought, you decide to call for 10 volunteers to continue the mission with you, and order the remaining rangers to return to Summerland on foot, at first light, to report what has happened. Suspiciously like what happens in the other story direction. Your party is reduced from 50 to 11. Pick a number from the table. After many hours of riding, you reach a highway junction. You've left the wildlands and may once again hunt. You will, of course, head towards Ruanan. It's where we're supposed to go. Last time we sent scouts, and our scouts disappeared. I think this time we will therefore push on as quickly as possible. You are helped tonight by a cloudless sky, for the highway is illuminated by the pale moonlight. You order 3 of your men to scout ahead, for you know the notorious reputation this forested highway has for sudden bandit ambushes. The densely packed trees lining the road could easily conceal an army of robbers. Before the scout gallops away, you order them to report anything unusual that they may find on the road ahead. Within an hour, you arrive at a junction where a track from the east meets the main highway. Abandoned at the side of the road is a burnt-out wagon. You sense that something is wrong. Your scouts should have reported this wagon long before you found it, and your men are worried by what may have happened to them. You know that you dare not continue your ride in case you fall into an ambush. You decide to rest at the junction and wait for the return of your scouts. 6 hours later, as the sun slowly rises over the eastern tree line, your scouts have still not returned. Examine the wagon just like last time. Go at full speed. Try crossing the river. Well, last time we went downstream, let's try going upstream. You enter the forest and descend the wooded hillside towards the River Zane. You've only gone a few yards before that's the same. Trees are too dense. You have to get off your horses, continue on foot. You reach a river and find a foam-flecked... You soon reach the river and follow the foam-flecked water upstream. The climb takes you through a maze of wide rock terraces, worn smooth by the force of the river. Then, at a point where the torrent is fed by many smaller streams, you catch sight of 6 bandits, stabbing at the water with their spears as it thunders along the smooth-hewn channels. On the far bank, you see a pile of grey fish standing next to a horse-drawn wagon, which you recognize as a summer-lending cavalry wagon. If you have reached the rank of Warman, turn to 116. If you haven't reached this but wish to launch a surprise attack, if you want to sneak across, or if you'd rather avoid crossing here and go back the other way. Never! Bring it! You sense the wagon is full of sleeping bandits. Should they awake before you cross the river undetected, or before you silence the 6 of the guards, your men would be hard-pressed to avoid death or capture. You decide the risk is too great to attempt crossing here, and you signal your men... No, you are not allowed to go this way. Okay, you come across the boathouse. What if we avoid the boathouse this time? For over an hour, you follow the riverbank as it wends its way into the foothills of the Macken Range. The River Zane is wide and fast-flowing. There are no signs of any bridges or fords in this direction. Never. We're not going to the boathouse. You soon discover a partially concealed mine shaft descending vertically into the hillside. Your men clear away briars, choking the shaft. You notice a ladder fixed to one side. You realize this must be an escape shaft from the Macken mines, for they honeycomb the foothills of this mountain range. If only you could locate a major tunnel, you might find a path all the way to Rynin itself. You kneel at the edge and peer down into the gloom. There is such an overwhelming smell of dampness and decay that you decide to send your lightest man down the ladder to check whether it is still secure. It seems well, for he soon reaches a tunnel entrance far below and shouts that you ought to follow. The tunnel leads to an oval-shaped, rough-hewn chamber, the floor of which is coated in a strange, silky fluid. If you have animal kinship, you recognize the silky fluid. It is the trail of a stoneworm, a dangerous subterranean predator. You warn your men not to step in the slime, for it is highly corrosive. No sooner have the words left your mouth than there is a sudden and ghastly noise. A hideous groan reverberates through the chamber, making everyone freeze in mid-step. With mounting horror, you watch as the far wall suddenly moves towards you. A crack appears, widening to reveal a row of razor-sharp teeth. You've awoken a hungry stoneworm, and it intends to feast on your flesh. Your men unsheath their swords and prepare for combat. It is too late to turn and run. Fight the stoneworm. A foul odor awaits your nostrils, making you choke and retch. Covering your mouth and nose, you step back and raise your weapon in readiness to strike, for the creature is slithering towards you at a frightening pace. Your men rain blows upon its gaping jaws, but their blades barely scratch the creature's glistening grey skin before they are snatched and swallowed whole. Relentlessly, the stone worm advances until it is upon you. You cannot evade it and must fight to the death. It is immune to Mind Blast. Smite, 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 smite. It's done the most damage to us of any enemy so far from memory. We win combat. The foul creature lets out a ghastly shriek and dies, but its huge slimy body trembles and convulses for several minutes. You wait a while before daring to squeeze past it into the chamber beyond. No trace of your men remains, their bodies partially digested inside the worm's carcass. With rising nausea, you turn and flee from this terrible chamber. You follow the tunnel for 3 hours, arriving at a great hall where several tunnels, all at different depths, meet up. A series of wide stone ramps, almost as if you had arrived by travelling here from a different direction in the story. The story has branched out in several directions and now reconverged to follow a single storyline. 4 levels below you, teams of men are pushing wagons of ore. So this is dead the same. Random number table. You are halfway down the ramp when a guard turns to face you. He blinks and rubs his bloodshot eyes in disbelief. You seize your advantage and sprint at him, hoping to reach him before he comes to his senses. Just as he begins to shout, you strike and send him tumbling over the edge of the ramp. The other guard draws his sword and staggers to his feet. He is obviously very drunk and is maddened by your attack. He springs towards you like a maddened dog. Two rounds of combat, and I only did 2 hit points. A brass key, you say? Gold crowns, and a meal, and a meal. The hoarse cries of the guard echo along the tunnel. You soon reach a section where repairs are in progress. A prop in the center of the passage supports a cracked roof beam. If you could knock it away, you might cause the roof to fall in, which would seal off the passage behind you. Do we risk getting smushed? The wooden pillar is stout and firm. It will take a heavy blow to dislodge. If you possess the summer sword, we do. With one slice of your golden sword, the timber splintered in 2. A shudder runs through the ground, and with one mighty roar, a deluge of earth and stone completely fills the tunnel. Clouds of dust engulf you, and the force of the blast throws you from the floor. Throws you to the floor. All the torches are extinguished. You lose an endurance point. Staggering to your feet, you hurry along the dust-choked tunnel to where the wall torches are still burning. The tunnel emerges into a large chamber, divided by a deep mine shaft. A dark-skinned warrior in tatty leather... Okay, so this is the same. We will once again use the force to make some rocks fall down and distract him. We run across. We must eat. We have lots of spare meals. We have tracking. We hide in the shadows like last time. I do have hunting. We recognize the poison, we run away. What if we try and outrun the doggos this time? Okay, so we skip straight to this and we avoid one of the random encounters with the doggos. Captain Duval saves us again. He takes us to the tower. He complains. I do not possess the scroll. He tells us the full prophecy, seeing as we missed the scroll. We learn about the evil person going to raise the army of the vanquished Dark Lord. We can give Captain Duval his sword. I never expected to see my trusty steel again, says Captain Duval. It is a good omen for the battle ahead. Thanking you, he sheathes his sword in its scabbard, but until now has hung empty from his belt. Remember to remove it from your inventory. So the fight is happening. What's the point in getting his sword if we... Well, no, we're this rank. We accept the wisdom of our rank that says go fight and have his men tend to him. We fight the warrior that gets through. We kill him. We win the fight. This thing marches its way across. We fight the horseman. We probably don't one-hit kill him this time. No, we one-hit kill him again. Poor guy. And yet he lives. We fight him on foot. Once again, we insta-kill. This guy, do we manage to bow him ourselves this time? The arrow arcs through the smoke-blackened sky and pierces the officer's shining breastplate. You hear his scream of pain and watch as his eyes flicker and close. He swoons and slips from the saddle, your arrow lodged deep in his heart. Okay, the people run away again. You must go prevent the sacrifice. Look at the objects. Grab a meal. We're done getting objects. Last time we went left, so this time we'll go right. Your passage through the trees is lit by the flickering glow of the campfires that line the highway. Bandit warriors huddle round, drawing warmth and comfort from the flames. They take little interest in their guard duties, and you find it easy to avoid their patrols. By morning, you have reached the edge of the forests and stare out across the fields of crops towards a small village that lies at the base of a shallow valley. The fields are only separated by narrow tracks, and they are alive with flying insects hovering in swarms. You are walking along one of these when suddenly you spot bandits ahead. They are wandering idly up the track towards you, spears slung over their shoulders. Yep, we're of a high enough rank, and we have the camouflage skill. Camouflage skill paying off in spades this game. We've had 2 uses of it. Lifting your feet high, you step into the tall crops, taking care to part them first with your hands. You allow the stalks to close again behind your back before you crouch down and hold your breath. You are vanished from sight. It is as if the stalks had never been disturbed. The bandits amble past, inches from where you hide, oblivious to your presence. When they are gone, you emerge and hurry on. You bypass a village with orange wood cabins and stone walls, and climb through the tall fields towards a wooden ridge. Beyond the ridge, you enter thick forest and discover a bubbling freshwater stream. You must eat a meal or you lose 3 health. As night falls, you reach the city of Macken. The gaunt, weed-infested ruins of this shattered city are spread like a vast graveyard and bathed in the eerie light of a near full moon. A sound fills the air like the wailing of lost souls, the cry of the Macken Gorge. It has been 2 days since you last slept, and fatigue overwhelms you. Drawing your cloak about you, you settle down to sleep. You will need all your strength for the task ahead. Hunt. Turn. Dawn arrives, rain-swept and gloom-laden. A pall of drizzle hangs over the ghost city, and the gruesome discord of the wailing winds of the Macken Gorge makes you feel uneasy. You watch and wait, your kai cloak drawn close to your shoulders to keep the chill of the air out. It is here, during the age of the Black Moon, that King Olnar of Summerlin killed the mightiest of the Dark Lords, Lord Vashna. In mortal combat upon the very brink of the abyss, the Dark Lord was slain by the Summer Sword. It is said that his death cry, when he fell through will echo through the gorge until the day he rises to get his vengeance upon Summerland and the House of Ulnar. Your stomach contracts at the thought that it could be this very day. For 5 hours, you observe and take in the details of the ruined city. The first line of the strange verse keeps repeating itself in your mind. When the full moon shines over the temple deep, the temple must be underground, and there must be an entrance to it. But where? You study every crack in the broken ground and eliminate all but 2 possibilities. A crypt door guarded by 2 Vasagonian warriors, and a flight of marble steps descending deep into the earth below, between 2 columns of fractured pillars. Let's assume it's the unguarded door. The rain and gloom hide your approach as you reach the marble stairs unseen. The steps are overgrown with mould and weeds, but a path has been trod through them, leading to the darkness of a huge underground vault. If you possess a torch and tinderbox, if you possess a fire sphere, which we do, we have the fire sphere from one of the previous, from our time in the ice caves of Khan, or whatever it was. Karth. You break open the 2 halves of your, here we are, Kalt fire sphere, and hold the flaming hemispheres high as you advance deep into the vault. You gasp as you spot a hideous black-skinned creature perched on the rail near the ceiling. Dull, satanic eyes follow your move, and its mouth open and closes, shouting silent curses. It glides down from its perch and attacks. We possess the Summer Sword. The creature is flooded by golden light from your sword. The look of terror that crosses its ghoulish face has it hurl itself upwards to avoid your sword blow. You brace yourself for another onslaught, but it never comes. Your attacker has escaped into a fissure in the ceiling. Sheathing your sword, you prepare to continue. You notice a low portal in the vault wall leading to a long, narrow corridor. No, we will continue. We do not return to the guarded door. The corridor ends at a flight of steps that descends 100 feet into the earth. At the bottom, a short passage leads to a junction where a tunnel runs from north to south. To the north, you can see a torchlit cavern with what appears to be an observation slit carved into the walls, and to the south, a passage leads towards a low balcony. Low balcony. I remember that one for sure. An empty feeling grips your stomach as you stare upon the altar of the inner sanctum of the subterranean temple. Your senses burn as if every nerve of your body is screaming a warning to flee this evil chamber. Huge braziers of molten metal encircle a black altar upon which lies the fair Madeline, daughter of Baron Vanillid. She seems to be entranced, her breathing slow and shallow. Beyond the altar lie 2 massive doors, a gigantic skull engraved upon their black stone surface. Out of your view, another door opens, and a procession of red-cloaked priests enters the temple, their heads covered, and they each carry strange amulets of black stone. They file past the altar, depositing their amulets in a circle around the girl's body, and then file out again in silence. You hear the sound of a distant drumbeat grows louder and nearer. The measured steps of steel-shod boots resound in its wake. Baraka is approaching. Baraka carries the stench of death and decay about him. He strides into the temple, his boots of Gorgaz hide covering both legs and feet, and slams shut the huge stone door with frightening ease. He stands in silence before pushing open the huge black doors engraved with menacing skulls. Suddenly, a gale-force wind sweeps through the temple, and your ears are filled by a terrible scream. Beyond the open doors, a pier of stone juts into the abyss of the Mackin Gorge. You are staring into the Chasm of Doom. Baraka turns away from the windswept pier and walks towards the altar. From a hidden scabbard, he removes a twisted black dagger and holds its stiletto blade to the light. An evil blue flame runs up and down the black steel spike, flickering in the ice-cold winds of the Mackin Gorge. The sacrifice is about to begin. No, we'll just fight. We do have the Summer Sword. As you raise your golden sword, the howling wind seems to rise in pitch and intensity. It claws at your mind, filling your head with terrible images of death and horror. Barak sees you falter and strikes a cruel blow that opens a wound on your cheek. You lose an endurance point. Sudden pain reawakens you to the presence of the enemy and combat begins. You are attacked by a very powerful mind blast. If you have mind shield, unless you have mind shield, your combat skill is reduced by 4 for this combat. Baraka himself is a warrior who possesses formidable strength of will, and he himself is immune to mind blasts. So we still have a slight advantage over him, but only just, right? And this is while we have the sword, a shield, the special helmet. Like, we've spent the previous 4 books collecting extra goodies, and we are only just stronger than him in terms of combat. We suffered more damage. We suffered more damage. He suffered more damage. We suffered no damage. And he's on his last attack. You barely survived this encounter. You're gravely injured. You should try and heal as soon as possible. As you raise your golden sword, the howling wind seems to rise in pitch and intensity. Oh no, we had that. If you win combat, turn to here. As Baraka dies, the wind suddenly rises in pitch and intensity, filling the temple with a mournful cry of despair. You feel the chill, malevolent spirit of Dark Lord Vashna engulfing you in an icy embrace, but you sense that he is powerless to harm you. The sacrifice has been foiled. He is doomed to lament for a victory that might have been. Lying on the Black Temple floor is the dagger of Vashna. You pick it up and tuck it into your belt, mark it on your action chart as a special item. The evil blue flame flickers and dies. As long as you possess the evil blade, Dark Lord Vashna and his legion of dead warriors will remain imprisoned in the Chasm of Doom. You free fair Madeline from the altar and carry her through the corridors of the temple that led up to the surface. As you emerge to the moonlit ruins, an astounding sight greets you. Baraka's warriors are running from the city in all directions, pursued by an army of cavalrymen. In the light of the full moon and the guttering torches that the carrymen carry, it illuminates the sun crest that bedecks their tunics. Word must have reached Holmgard, for they are sending the army, led by King Ulnar himself. Your countrymen praise your courage and daring, their strident cheers drowning the cry of the Mackengorge. For, once again, you have proved yourself the hero of Summerland. As you deliver Madeline into the waiting arms of her father, his overwhelming joy fills you with a sense of great achievement. You are worthy of the title of Kai Lord. You have succeeded in your perilous quest. But the epic saga of Lone Wolf, Last of the Kai Lords, is far from complete. A new and deadly challenge awaits you in Book 5, entitled Shadow on the Sand. Alright. We did pretty well. If we hadn't been insta-killed by that dungeon, by the cellar that we hopped in, we would have even gotten through that without a single death. Okay. Give me a quick break, and we'll be back with the next one. Cheers all. Thank you for watching. I enjoy this, but continuous reading is rough on the throat, so give me a minute or two break, and we'll be back. Refill my water. Pat doggo. Drink refilled. A doggo patted. Hello and welcome back to the Blob Blaze, our Lone Wolf Wednesdays, Lone Wolf Saga. We are up to Book 5, Shadow on the Sand. The story so far. You are Lone Wolf, the last of the Kai Lords, the sole survivor of a massacre that destroyed your order during a bitter war with your age-old enemies, the Dark Lords of Helgadad. If you possess the Kai skill of animal friendship and have the blessing of the good boy, proceed yes. Although good girl. Primrose's best girl. It is midwinter in your northern homeland and the mantle of snow lies knee-deep in the streets of Holmgard. Oh god, no, that sounds terrible. The capital, when you are summoned from your monastery in the hills by a messenger bearing a scroll, signed and sealed by the hand of the king. You're surprised to read the king's message. It is a request for your help in solving the urgent problem, which he describes as one of great diplomatic importance. It seems a strange request to make of you, a warrior lord, whose skills are better suited to the field of battle than to parley with foreign envoys. However, you obey the summons, and upon your arrival at the capital, all is made clear. The Zakan of Vasagonia, the imperial ruler of the Desert Empire, has sent his most trusted envoy to seek a treaty of peace between your countries, and you have been asked to sign the treaty on behalf of your country. The reason for this is easily apparent. Less than a year ago, the renegade noble Baraka of Vasnagonia led his army of bandits in an attack upon the province of Ruanan. The mining town and much of the surrounding land was overrun and destroyed. Many of your people lost their lives, and many more were enslaved and forced into labour in the mines of the Makan Range. When the regular convoy of Ruanan failed to arrive at the capital, the king sent you to investigate. Yeah, basically, last book happened. See last episode if you want more details. Your Majesty, the Zakan is gravely embarrassed by Baraka's foul treachery, and is most anxious that our friendship and trust be restored. He begs that I send you, the Kai warrior, Lone Wolf, to sign a treaty of peace with him at the Grand Palace in Barrakesh. Not Marrakesh, Barrakesh. Oh, to be a child and not realize these things. Whimpers the Zakan emissary as he kneels at the feet of King Olnar. The king rises from his throne, barely able to conceal his distaste for the fawning envoy. He turns his gaze to you and bids you follow him to the privacy of the antechamber. I have no liking for the Desert Realm, Lone Wolf, but I like the prospect of war even less. The Zakan is old and frail, and has no son to claim his throne when he dies. Baraka was but one of the many ruthless nobles who wait like jackals for a chance to seize power upon his passing. I fear they grow too impatient to see the Zakan die a natural death. This treaty may not guarantee peace with Vasagonia once he is dead, but it will at least buy us precious time to strengthen our southern border. The king leads you to a window and points towards the harbour, barely visible through the falling snow. A Vasagonian galley lies anchored close to the harbour wall. Go to Vasagonia, sign the peace treaty, and return quickly. Even with a promise of peace, I fear the shadow of war will fall upon us before the year is out. You wave farewell to Holmgard on this bleak winter's day, feeling sure you will return before the thaw. But as you watch the spires of Holmgard disappear in the falling snow, you have no inkling of the shadow that awaits you in Vasagonia. We may pick another skill, so do I want Mind Shield or Weapon Skill? The trouble with Weapon Skill is when you roll it, you're probably not going to roll it with Sword, because there's like Sword, Glaive, Spear, Quarterstaff, Axe, Dagger, Bow. And if you get almost anything other than Sword, you just don't want it, because 99% of the time you're going to be using the Summer Sword. Yeah, it's like I got Warhammer, and that's useless. The Kai Monastery has been rebuilt. Ooh, that's interesting. You can leave some of your objects here, as your backpack is limited to 8 items. Remember that objects you leave here will not be available until you return to the monastery. Okay, meal. Meal. I think 2 meals is enough to keep on us. I can store crowns in the... Ooh, no. I'm allowed to have 50 on me. Yes, withdraw all my crowns. Until I have 50 on me, there's no point in saving them. Before you leave, you may add 10 gold crowns. I should have deposited down to like 36, but whatever. I will take another healing potion and some food. Your mission is one of peaceful diplomacy, but beware. The Desert Empire of Vasagonia is notorious for being a land of deceit and treachery. Be on your guard at all times. Make notes as you progress. You will find them of great help in future adventures. Many things you find may aid you. Some special items will be of use in future books, and others may be red herrings with no real use. Be selective in what you decide to keep. Blah, 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 blah. No matter what you roll for combat skill and endurance, if you're smart, you should be able to win. For 25 days, the Vasagonian galley sails on a steady course for its home port of Barrakesh, with only a brief stop at the Duranese harbour of Port Bax to break a safe but monotonous voyage. You use your time aboard the ship to good purpose, learning the Vasagonian language from the ship's crew, which are only too eager to help you, asking only in return for tales of your adventures in the Last Lands. For many of the sailors, these are the most exciting stories they have ever heard. By the time you reach Barrakesh, you have both mastered their language and won their respect. 5 days to learn a new language. We are mighty skilled. We have entered from off-screen. Down here to Barrakesh. This is a desert land. There are some oases. Mountains, rocky spires. Apparently there's a salt lake somewhere. Ah, down here in the islands. Sure, whatever. It is early afternoon when the ramparts of the desert capital are first sighted on the horizon. You push your way through the cheering crew and join the envoy at the prow of the ship. Beaming with pride, he hands you a telescope and invites you to view the land of his birth. The sight is indeed breathtaking. You stare in fascination at the golden domes, minarets, and green-tiled roofs that shimmer beneath the desert sun. Marvel at the splendor of the grand palace which dominates the magnificent city. You notice that from every golden turret of the palace flutters a long black pennant. You ask the envoy the meaning of the flags. Horror floods across his face as he snatches the telescope. By the spirit of the Majan, he is dead. The Dakan is dead. As the bad news spreads through the ship, you pray that the peace treaty will be signed and honored by his successor. However, your envoy is less than hopeful. The harbor of Barrakesh... I feel... whatever. Is deserted save for a handful of citizens clad in black, and the only sound that greets you is the toll of a funeral bell, echoing through the harbour on this day of mourning. A horse-drawn carriage enters the harbour square, escorted by the cavalry of the palace guard. It halts, and a dour man in turquoise robes steps out to meet you. 1,000 greetings, Lone Wolf. I am Malk, and I welcome you to our city on behalf of my master, His Most Sublime Magnificence, Zakan Kimar. The envoy grasps upon hearing the name of the new Zakan. He turns to speak. It is a trap, you must... His warning is cut short by a blade of Mauk's dagger. Suddenly, scores of black-clad warriors emerge from the shadows. They are Shah Nazim, elite Vasagonian bodyguards. They close in and surround you from every side. You must act quickly if you are to survive this deadly trap. If you wish to stand and fight against these overwhelming odds, turn to 36. If you wish to run back to the boat, turn to 104. If you wish to surrender, let's see if we can fight. The grim-faced Sharazim encircle you, their razor-sharp scimitars glinting in the sun. Take him! Take him alive! The warriors sheathe their swords and wait for you a chance to rush you. Could it be draw? 6 lie dead at your feet before you are eventually overpowered. You are brave, he says in a mocking tone, but you will need more than bravery to save you now. You are stripped of all your items! No! Your hands are tied behind your back and you are pushed head first into the waiting carriage. Back to the palace, he commands. The Zakan awaits his prize. You fight to free the cords that bind you, but he is quick to see this danger. He grabs your arm and forces a dart into your skin. Sleep engulfs your senses. You hear him wickedly laughing as everything fades into silence. Make the necessary adjustments to your chart. List all these things that have been confiscated from you on a separate piece of paper, in case you should discover them later in the adventure. You wake in great discomfort. Every muscle of your body feels knotted and bruised. You force open your eyelids, clogged with dry sweat, and look with dread at your wretched surroundings. You are lying on the hard stone floor of a prison cell. Over by the far wall, beneath a window crisscrossed with iron bars, is a low wooden bunk covered in filthy rags. Cockroaches, some the size of field mice, scuttle along the foul-smelling gutter that disappears into the grating of the floor. Make sure you removed everything. You discover your hands are free and slowly pull yourself upright into a sitting position, resting your back against the cell door. A faint draft from the corridor outside provides the only relief from the stifling heat and bad air of the cell. In the distance, you can hear footsteps approaching. Then there is a jangle of keys and a creaking of hinges. The door closes with a dull thud, more footsteps getting louder. They come to a halt outside the cell door, and a loud voice bellows, "Sleeping on duty? Sefrao, you'll wake on the other side of this door if the captain catches you." The chair scrapes along the ground, and a startled voice, full of indignation, replies, "Curse you, Hajj." Zakan doesn't want the Northerner taken to the Great Hall until sunset. You've cheated me of 2 hours of sleep. "Shut up, Sefrao," snarls the first voice, "and listen hard. I have come from the armory. Some interesting trinkets were found on the Northerner. Worth a great deal of gold, I'll say. Seems a pity to let them go to waste." The 2 guards chuckle greedily and discuss at length the good time they will be able to have in the city once they have sold your equipment. "Take a peek at our friend," says one of the guards. "I wonder if he's enjoying our hospitality." A spy hole slides open above your head and you hear a gasp of shock. He's gone! By the Majin, we'll lose our heads." You suddenly realize that you cannot be seen so close to the door. "Let me see," hisses the other guard, eager to see for himself. You hear a click of a key in the lock. This could be your chance to escape. Attack them as soon as they open the door. Your clenched fist strikes the man beneath his bearded jaw, lifting him from the floor with the power of your blow. His sword drops from his hand and clatters to the ground at your feet. Pick up the sword. You stoop to grasp the sword, but your fingers close around the hilt and the second guard attacks you. Ignore all endurance points lost by the enemy for the first round of combat, for you may only attempt to parry his blow. No. Equip normal sword. So, good. It's said that the game has done the right thing and tracked that he wasn't meant to lose health this round. Your enemy was able to stab you before you killed him, but he didn't harm you too greatly. We won the fight quickly. The guard clutches at the wounds and drops lifeless to the ground. You see the other man is recovering from your blow and clawing at the cell door to try and pull himself to his feet. I will try and capture him alive. You grasp the frightened guard in a secure headlock and threaten to break his neck if he doesn't answer your questions. He promises to tell you everything he knows. He says that the Nusa Khan fears that you are an assassin sent by his enemies in the west. He claims to hate the Nusa Khan. He is only a simple jailer and knows nothing more. Use our sixth sense. He is lying! He knows that other guards are sure to turn up at any moment. Kill him! He lied to us. He deserves no mercy. Your attack is swift and deadly. Before he can scream for help, you have silenced him for good, with an open-handed chop to the neck. Search the bodies. A dagger, a warhammer. A warhammer is actually useful, seeing as we rolled warhammer on our weapons proficiency list. Gold crowns and a jailer's key. Crowns, hammer, key. And we'll trade the sword for a dagger. Thank you. The corridor heads north, but soon ends at a junction where another passage runs across from east to west. Cautiously, you peer around the corner. There are no signs of any guards. At the end of the passageway, you could see a flight of stairs descending out of view to the west, and you see a closed door. Head towards the door. The heavy door is reinforced with black bands of iron held in place by huge bronze studs. You turn the handle to find that the door is locked. We have the key. Once you've unlocked the door, you twist the handle open a few inches. You see a stair descending to a small chamber, where a black robed soldier is guarding a pair of iron gates. Through the bars, you see rows of weapons and suits of armor. A sign fixed to the bars says, Grand Palace Armory. We have camouflage. You disguise your accent and call out to the guard, Quick, we need help, the Northerlander is escaping. Immediately, the guard leaps to his feet and charges up the stairs towards the door. You wait until he reaches the top step before you attack. One kick to the knee sends him tumbling backwards into the chamber, and he falls in a heap at the foot of the stairs. You enter the chamber, poised to strike it again should he recover. However, this caution is unnecessary. He is dead, his neck broken from the fall. Search his body. You find another jailer's key. More crowns and a dagger. The iron gates of the armory are unlocked. You push open the left gate and wince as a shrill squeak from the dry hinge sends a shiver down your spine. Inside, at the end of a long aisle, is a workbench littered with spearheads, sword hilts, and all manners of armorer's tools. In the midst of this tangled mess is a large black leather-bound book. Open the book. It is an armory log. It contains handwritten lists of all the work carried out here. Swords and spears made for the garrison of Karakala. Ore shipments from the Vakar Mountains, weapons due for repair, and all manner of daily routines are carefully recorded. You are about to discard the log when you notice a folded piece of parchment tucked into the spine. It is a list of dates and numbers, with a heading in bold print, The Bronze Door. You scan the page and locate today's date. Next to it is listed the number 67. Make sure to note this number in the margins of your action chart, as it will be useful later in the adventure. You throw the book back onto the cluttered bench and begin your search for your equipment. You are disappointed to find that nothing here contains your missing equipment. All hope of signing a peace treaty has vanished. Your only concern now is to find your equipment and escape the palace. You must return home as quickly as possible. You pull aside a latticed partition and enter a small antechamber. Narrow stone steps lead onto an open door in the north wall, beside which stands a wooden chest. Well, the chest sounds like it might hold our crap. The chest is plain except for a small square of red metal bolted to the top. There is no lock, but instinctively you avoid opening the lid with your hands, in case it is booby-trapped. You notice a wooden bucket nearby and a ladle. Using a ladle to lever open the chest, you push back the lid. It is not booby-trapped, but your caution was well placed. Coiled on a bed of jewel-encrusted maces lies a non-poisonous but large Vasagonian snake. A red forked tongue flicks out of its yellow head as it prepares to defend its valuable bed. Kill it. It's only a snake. Defeat snake. No. Equip hammer, which helps my combat skill. 2, 3. Snake dealt 1 damage to me. The great snake shudders and convulses in the throes of death. The smell of its thick brown blood is disgusting, and you have to hold your breath and grit your teeth as you lift the dead snake away from the chest and peer inside. There are 6 silver-handled maces, each beautifully carved and encrusted with rubies, emeralds, and pearls. In the Northlands, these weapons would fetch thousands of crowns. At the bottom of the chest, you discover a small copper key. If you wish to take either of these, mark them on your action chart as special items. The acidic smell of the snake blood is beginning to make you retch. You leave the armory via the north door. Sure, I'll take these things. Why not? Oh, and we need to update our overlay. Whoops, I'm an idiot. We're up to book 5. You step into a perfect hemisphere. The walls of the chamber curve smoothly to the ceiling, where a small window casts a splash of light upon the floor. There is a large circular dais in the center of the room, laden with incense burners, decanters, quilts, scrolls, cloaks. I lost my page. Cloaks. Urns and all kinds of fruit and sweetmeats. A drawer catches your eye. Protruding from beneath the lip of the dais, you recognize its contents. You have found your confiscated equipment. Oh, yes, please and thank you. Give me everything. Everything. Goodbye, dagger. Hello. Summer sword. I don't need a sword or a dagger, so now I have Summer Sword, Warhammer, Dagger. Elated by your discovery, you resolve to escape from the palace as quickly as possible. There is only one other door, apart from the one by which you entered the chamber, set into the north wall. Let's look for more useful items. You sift through the vast number of items on the dais and find the following, which may or may not be of use. Get rid of a meal. Take the extra potion. Take the silver comb. Okay, get rid of a meal. Take the silver comb. Don't know why that would be useful, but okay. And get rid of 1 potion for an hourglass. Get rid of 1 potion for a prism. Possibly useless, but we've never needed any of our... I think we've used a grand total of 1 healing potion, ever. You follow a straight passage of pale, rose-coloured stone, which ends in an empty vestibule. In the north wall is a great wooden door, covered with engraved bronze plaques, and studded with bronze nails. There is a curious lock set into the middle, encircled by a beautiful carving of a long-tailed scorpion. A closer look at the lock reveals a series of Vasagonian numerals. You recognize the design. It is a Cloasian combination lock. If you know the number that will open the bronze door, turn to that numbered section, which is 67. Yes, this is the correct combination. Proceed to section 67. You hear a faint click followed by a soft whirring noise. The bronze door slides open. As you hurry through, the door clicks shut behind your back, as softly as it had opened. Instinct tells you that you have entered the chambers of the Upper Palace, the sumptuous private enclave of the Zakhan. You walk upon glistening tiles of opal and platinum, past sculptures and statues of pure gold. The door is of solid amethyst, seems plain in comparison to the breathtaking splendor of this private world. Beyond the door lies another unique and startlingly beautiful world. The Arboreum, a circular, cathedral-like arena, spreads out below you. The green velvety canopy alive with the sound of birdsong. Trees of every colour, shape and size flourish in the deep dark soil of the floor. The Zakan's arboreum houses a specimen of every tree that grows in Magnamund, and many species that are now extinct elsewhere. As you walk the wrought iron balcony which encircles the arboretum, you recognize the leaves of a summerling oak. You feel a wave of homesickness, but it does not make you despair. Rather, it renews your determination to escape from this hostile, sun-bleached land. At one of the exits from the arboretum, you discover a quarterstaff propped up against the wall. You may take it if you wish, mark it on your action chart. The desire to escape urges you on as you leave the arboretum and hurry through the network of lavish corridors and empty deserted vestibules. You reach a landing where a broad staircase descends to a massive room that occupies most of the lower palace. From the top of the stairs, hidden by the shadow of a pilaster? What is a pilaster? I know what a plaster would be, but what is a pilaster? A rectangular... Oh, we've had this word before and I didn't know it then either. Pilaster, pilaster, pilaster. You stare down on a sight that freezes your blood with terror. I don't want the quarterstaff. Upon a raised platform carpeted with scarlet furs sits the Emperor, Zakan Kemar. He is robed in gold, but devoid of all ornamentation. In his hand is an orb of black metal, and his eye icy cold with cruelty, and it chills your spine. The Zakan is a man of awesome countenance, but he pales in the shadow of his companion. Before him stands the cause of your terror. A helm as black as death itself hides the face, but the stench of decay and a hideous sepulchral voice betrays the identity. Give me lone wolf. It is the fell voice of a mortal enemy, a dark lord of Helgadad. As the Zakan rises to his feet, you notice a flicker of doubt, or perhaps fear, dims his cruel gaze. But he is quick to mask it. He will be brought to you at sunset in exchange for the Orb of Death, as was agreed. You have the orb. Give me Lone Wolf. The Zakan hides his fear well, but time is not on his side. The game of bluff he is playing is a deadly one. However, the fact that he has not yet been discovered is evidence of his powerful will. For you sense the Dark Lord is persistently clawing and probing at his mind. You will get your Northernder, Lord Hakon, says Zakan, his voice curt with anger, when you tell me why your servants defile the tomb of the Majihan. You claim to have no need for gold or jewels. Why then do you plunder the grave of our ancestors? A deathly quiet fills the hall. Only the unnatural hiss of the Dark Lord's breath disturbs the silence. This land is an insignificant speck of sand and harbors two small thorns that pricks our skin. We seek to remove them both forever. The fledgling Kai Lone Wolf is a thorn that denies us Summerland. The tomb of the Majihan hides the other thorn that threatens us. The accursed Book of the Magna Kai. Your heart pounds as the words echo in your head. The Book of the Magna Kai. Suddenly the reasons why you've been enticed into this death trap become clear, and the truth is revealed. The Book of the Magna Kai is one of the oldest legends of Summerland. With the wisdom of the Magna Kai, Sun Eagle, first Kai Grand Master, instilled the disciplines into the warriors of House of Ulnar, the bloodline of your king, that were to save your land from devastation at the hands of the Dark Lords. The Book of the Magna Kai was lost hundreds of years ago. Its wisdom has been kept alive, handed down through generations of summer-lending warriors, so that they could share the strength to resist their eternal enemies, the Dark Lords of Helgadad. If the Dark Lords discover and destroy the book, secrets will be lost forever, and when you die, the Kai will be extinct. If you discover the book first and deny the Dark Lords their prize, the wisdom of the Magna Kai could be revealed to you, and through its wisdom, You will become strong enough to reach the ultimate achievement, to become a Kai Grand Master. The peril and the glory of this quest that lies ahead of you are distracting. Distracting you from the far more immediate danger. You will have to discover this danger, and to begin the quest for the Book of Magnakai, turn to Part 2 of Shadow on the Sand, in Section 201. Suddenly you catch sight of two warriors creeping towards you from a passage to your right. They are clad in jet black armor and scarlet robes. Their hideous death masks identify themselves as Dracurum warriors. They are men, but evil men, as evil as the Dark Lords they serve. One holds a razor-flanged Akataz, a creeping, leathery war dog. Bless me. Bless me. Straining on a chain leash. The Drakan hisses and the Akataz springs towards your throat. Sure, we will defeat the doggo. It leaps, you fall back, you're winded, it jolts the air from your lungs, costs you a hit point. You spring to your feet, the dog runs towards you. Kill him! Yells the master, and they unsheathe their swords. They attack you. Okay. We will swap back to using the summer sword, because it gives even more plus combat skill than my mastery of the hammer does. Two rounds kills the first enemy. You glance the silhouette of Dark Lord Hakon in the hole, his spiked fist raised. There is a deafening crack as a bolt of blue lightning streaks from a stone in the Dark Lord's hand and hurtles towards you. You dive for cover behind the body of the Dakar as the bolt explodes in a flash of light. The body is gone. Only cinders and the rotten odor of scorched flesh remain. You scramble to your feet and sprint along the passage. Another bolt hurtles from the hole, tearing into the ceiling with shattering effect. Splinters of razor-sharp marble whistle down, slashing your cloak and tunic. You race down some stairs, through a silver archway, and along a balcony that overlooks the lower palace. The peal of bells and the crunch of iron-shod boots echo in your ears. The Zakan has sounded the alarm, and his guards close in from every side. At the end of the balcony is another arch and a stairway, both of which look deserted. Now let's go to the arch. You run through the arch and straight into a black-robed palace guard. You bruise your ribs, and the impact throws you off balance. You manage to grab the wall and stop yourself from falling over. The guard lies sprawled upon the floor, but with incredible swiftness, he draws a shining steel axe and slashes at your legs. If you have hunting, add 2 to the number you roll. We roll presumably well. You whirl your feet away from the shining steel and narrowly escape being wounded as the axe bites inches deep into the polished stone floor. Before the guard can strike another blow, you lash out, sending the axe spinning from his hands. He screams, clutching broken fingers to his chest. You turn and run towards the door. The air is filled with the sound of pounding feet. For the palace guards are on full alert. Together with the Dakarim, they are now bent on finding and killing you as quickly as possible. Beyond the door, a bridge rises at a slanted angle over the enclosed garden, joining this part of the palace to a needle-like tower of white marble. At the entrance to the bridge, a narrow stair disappears into the garden below. We'll try and cross the bridge and enter the tower. Inside the cool marble tower, 2 flights of spiral stairs meet at a landing. You detect the sound of distant running feet growing louder. It is coming from one of the spiral staircases, but which one? Suddenly, a band of warriors appears. They are crossing the bridge that leads to the tower, and you must escape. We have 6th sense, so Spidey sense tells us which one is the one that they're coming from, and you go up the other one. The stairs are high and steep. You gasp for breath and force your aching legs to climb. For the Drakarim are less than a dozen steps behind you. At the top of the tower, an open arch leads out onto a platform where a huge kettle drum stand. This is used by the tower guard to send messages to the other palace towers. Its bleached hide is stretched across its surface, and a black wooden beater hangs from the side. Push the drum down the stairs. Sure, why not? The heavy copper drum rolls from its wooden base and crashes into the tower stair. A thunderous boom echoing from the dark as it careens on a collision course with the enemy. Screams of horror are cut short as the drum hurtles through the ranks of Dracarim, crushing them into the hard stone steps. Your quick action has scattered your pursuers, but victory turns sour when you discover that you are trapped. There are no other stairs from the platform. You have delayed them, but your reprieve is only temporary. If you possess a rope, you may use it to climb down into the gardens below. Tying one end of the rope to the parapet rail, drop the other end over the side. And glissage? What the hell is glissade? A way of sliding down a steep slope of snow or ice on the feet with the support of an ice axe. Or, for ballet, a movement typically used as a joining step, in which one leg is brushed outwards from the body, which then takes the weight while the second leg is brushed in to meet it. Well, I doubt we're doing ballet, so it's probably the sliding down a steep slope. In a complete daze, you tumble and spin, unaware of whether you are falling head first or feet first. The warm wind tears at your face, forcing your eyelids and mouth open. You can barely breathe. You scream with terror until you hit the upper branches of a toa tree. In the next instant, you hit water, rapidly surfacing and instinctively beginning to pump your legs. You have no idea in which direction you are swimming, but 3 strokes finds yourself at the side of this deep, sculpted pool. Still shaking from the shock of the impact, you crawl your way onto a mossy bank. Miraculously, you have escaped injury. Your ideal is far from over. The Dracarim and the palace guards watched your fall, and at this very moment are racing from the tower and the bridge to the palace gardens. Ahead of you, beyond a tree-lined colonnade, a flight of steps ascends to a small portal in a wall of the upper palace. To your right, a leafy tunnel winds away into the trees and shrubs. We have tracking, so we may use tracking. Your sense of tracking reveals that the winding path leads into the Arboretum, this cathedral of trees. The stairs to the portal leads to the private chambers in the upper palace, though you still cannot tell what the chamber contains. Sure, let's head to the chamber. Beyond the portal lies a vaulted corridor leading to a grand stairway. You narrowly avoid confrontation with a dozen Dracarim, saved by your lightning reactions. As the enemy rush from the archway onto the second floor landing, you dive behind a statue of the recently deceased Zakan. They are so intent on their chase that they fail to notice your hiding place and hurry down the stairs, grunting in their heavy armor. Silently, you give thanks that Zakan Mudala was a very stout man and that his statue casts a very large shadow in which to hide. At the top of the stairway, you discover a hatch, which gives access to the roof. You climb through it and follow a path of sun-bleached tiles that wind in and out of the domes and turrets, eventually leading to a bell tower. You are exhausted and need to rest, your mind still full of the shock of your encounter with Dark Lord Hakon. Hakon? The sound of his terrible voice repeating the words, "The Book of the Magna Chi," echoes again and again in your mind. With desperation sapping your will, you peer out through a grill in the bell tower. The sight before you renews your flagging hope, for it inspires a daring escape plan. Below the bell tower, you see a line of Itikar pens. each with its own circular landing platform. They are a breed of huge black birds that nest in eyries high in the peaks of the Dahir and Vakar mountains. One sec, sorry. The Vazagonians have long since tamed these giants of the sky, using them as winged mounts for their army leaders, their scouts, couriers, and envoys. An Ikatar and rider swoop down from the reddening sky and alight upon a platform near the bell tower. Slaves hurl a rope to the rider, who in turn fixes it to a saddle ring before he jumps to the ground. The Ikatar claws and beats its huge wings as it's slowly winched into a pen by a hidden capstan. The rider and slaves leave the platform. There is now only one sentry on guard at the pen. You could overpower him. You could make your escape on the back of the giant bird. I do not have a blow dart. You leave the bell tower and make your way down towards the sentry. At first, dodging from one turret to the next. It is easy to remain unseen. However, for the final 30 yards to the platform landing, you will have no cover. For the platform and the palace roof are linked by an exposed gangplank. If you were to overpower the sentry, you must cross the gangplank undetected. If you have the force, turn to page 295. Focusing your skill on a money pouch that hangs on the sentry's belt, you concentrate on untying the leather thong that secures it. Seconds later, the pouch drops to the ground and spills its contents. The guard yelps in horror as he sees his gold rolling over the edge of the platform and drops to his knees to gather what little remains. As he turns his back, you break cover and run across the gangplank. Your speed and stealth carry you across the gangplank undetected. When you strike, he is still on his knees, picking up his scattered gold. Your attack is silent and deadly. Search his body. 8 gold crowns and a brass whistle. Somehow I feel like the whistle might be useful in taming the birdie. You already have too much money. Whistle got. The great black bird beats its massive wings, cawing hoarsely through the domed pen. 2 black eyes, fierce and cold, fix you with a deadly stare as you edge nearer to its perch. Grabbing the saddle pommel, you haul yourself up, but suddenly there is a flash of razor-sharp talons. Instinctively you shield your face as a glint of orange sunlight is caught on the Ikatar's curved beak, for it slashes the air inches above your head. If you have animal kinship, turn to this page. It can take many years for a rider to tame an Ikatar. By their nature, they are wild and malicious creatures. You use your skill to communicate with it, to assure it you mean no harm. It fixes you with a cold black stare, and you sense it is no longer hostile. As you settle in its wide saddle, you catch sight of the Dracarim. They stream across the gangplank. Quickly you lean forward, unhook the anchor rope from the saddle, and grab the thick leather reins. You are jerked backwards in the saddle as the Ikatar leaves its perch. It shrieks and caws, its wings beating as loud as thunder. A handful of Dracarim are scattered as if they were rag dolls as the great black bird emerges from the pen and takes to the sky. You catch a glimpse of the Drakkar, his death mask slashed in two by the bird's razor-sharp talons. As he pitches from the landing platform and tumbles to his death in the gardens of the palace below. The golden domes of the palace grow smaller as the Ikatar gathers speed. Soon you have passed over the city wall and are headed out towards the shimmering salt flats of Lake Inrahim. The land below is bathed in beautiful orange twilight. As the sun slowly sinks behind the Dahir Mountains to the west, elated by your escape, you throw back your head and give voice to a triumphant yell that is carried away on the chill evening wind. As if in answer to your cry, an echoing chorus of shrieks pierce the sky. Fear returns to your heart as you catch sight of a flock of Kran. Hideous, leather-winged flyers. Each carries a Dracarim warrior on its back. They are a mile behind you, but closing the gap. Less than an hour of light remains. If you can evade them for some time longer, you'll be able to lose them as night falls. You must decide which direction to fly. You are now in the center of Lake Inrahim. Consult the map before making your decisions. So, we could either head south towards Drahir Pass, or presumably right towards Chula. Yes. Chula is nearer. The pass is further away. Let's go with Chula. You can clearly see the main highway that links Chula to the capital. It crosses the desolate salt plain of Lake Inrahim by means of a causeway 30 feet high, and it's a useful landmark, which you can use to steer. Little stone houses with beaten earth roofs are grouped in small clusters along the highway, their numbers increasing as you draw nearer to the town. 5 miles from Chula, you notice a dark cloud hovering several hundred of feet above one of the villages. A cloud of Kran. They are moving to intercept you. The Ikatar squeals in pain, and a splash of feathers billows out of its wing. A Kran has closed in from behind, is less than 100 yards distant. The riders holster an empty bronze crossbow and draws his black sword. His bolt had passed through the wing of your mount. Prepares to strike as your mount loses height and speed. Okay, so we fight the Dragon Rider. We insta-kill him, because he sucks. And actually we got a critical. We rolled a 0. 0 is like insta-win. You can clearly see the main highway that links Chula to the capital. It crosses the desolate... Oh, we did that. The enemy loses more hit points than you. Your blow has opened a wide gash in both the rider and his mount. His mount spins uncontrollably, discarding its black-clad rider as it spirals earthwards. With the terrible cry of the doomed rider fading below, you wheel to the south to avoid being caught between two converging squadrons of Kran riders. A quick change of direction increases the distance between you and your pursuers. But the Ikatar is badly wounded, and you are close to despair. Your mount is losing so much blood that it could collapse into unconsciousness at any moment, dropping you like a stone into the lake. You spot something in the distance, a sight that renews your faith in miracles. Emerging from a bank of cloud in the skyline is a flying ship. A small craft no bigger than an Unorum river barge with 2 triangular sails, swept back either side of its curving prow. In the fading twilight, you can make out a pennant that flutters from its mast. A faint humming reaches your ears. Your first reaction is disbelief. What you are seeing must be a trick of the light or some fiendish illusion created by the Dark Lords. However, as the ship floats nearer, you can sense it is indeed quite real. I have been given a star pendant. Standing at the fortified platform at the center of the strange craft is the blonde-haired man with deep, brooding eyes. You instantly recognize him. It is Bane, the young summer-lending magician who gave you the crystal star pendant at the ruins of Raumus after you saved his life in a Giak ambush in Book 1. You are stunned by his unexpected appearance. You fail to notice the blood seeping from your mount's mouth. The creature is near to death. The great bird lets out a pitiful and agonized caw. Its wings stiffen, its head falls limp. The last flicker of life escapes its torn body. It pitches forward. Your stomach heaves as you plummet towards the lake. The chill air whips past your face as you tumble towards Lake Inrahim. The Kran riders, the skyship, and the distant horizon melt into a kaleidoscope of shapes and images. You fear these will be the last things you ever see. You have prepared yourself for death and feel calm and relaxed. However, you suddenly feel your body engulfed by a mass of sticky fibers. There is a terrific jolt, which leaves you breathless and stunned, lose 2 hit points. The impossible is happening. You are no longer falling, but rising. You have been caught by a net of sticky strands, like a fly in a web. You rise into the sky towards the flying ship as quickly as you fell. 3 bearded dwarves, clad in bright, padded battle jerkins, pull you aboard an outrigger that runs the length of the hull. There is no time to express your gratitude, for the small skyship is under attack from the Kran riders. At the end of the outrigger, a dwarf is in hand-to-hand combat with a snarling Dakar. He is losing the battle. As you rush to help him, another of the evil warriors lands at the center. Sure, we'll help the dwarf. Kill the person fighting the dwarf. Insta-kill. You win combat turn here. The warrior falls to his knees and makes a horrible rasping noise as he tries in vain to prise open his shattered death mask. Your blows have staved in his helm? Shouldn't it be caved? And the buckled metal has fractured his skull. You lash out with your foot, kicking him from the outrigger, sending him spiraling down to Lake Inrahim to join the dwarf that he murdered. But the dwarf is neither dead nor hundreds of feet below. He hangs by his foot, unconscious, snagged in the netting below the outrigger boards. You grab his leg and haul him to safety before continuing the fight. The platform looks empty. No heads are showing above the armored parapet, but you sense something is wrong. Instinctively, you leap up from the outrigger onto the main hull, your weapon poised to strike. Ducking beneath the boomsel, you clamber onto the platform in time to witness a desperate struggle. The blonde-haired magician is pinned to the deck, his left arm skewered by a spear. With a staff in his right hand, he is trying to fend off the dismounted Kran rider. The Drakar senses your presence and whirls around and draws a twisted black scimitar from his scabbard. Please kill him quickly enough that we save Bane. Excellent. If you win the fight quickly, turn here. The Drakar curses you with his dying breath, his cry fading as he falls from the platform. You rush to aid your wounded countryman, but the battle is not yet over. A Kran rider is swooping towards you. A crossbow leveled at your head. He fires, and the bolt shoots towards your face. Then a shrill metallic whine rings in your ears as the bolt miraculously ricochets away. I have been given the Crystal Star Pendant. Bane lowers his staff, the trace of a wry smile on his pain-racked face. I was too slow to protect myself, Lone Wolf, he says, glancing at his arm. You kneel at his side and free the spear that pins him to the floor. The wound is serious. Hastily, you staunch the bleeding with strips of cloth torn from his dark blue robes. You recognize the robes, for they are the attire of a journeyman. It seems that young Baindon has achieved distinction among his brother magicians since last you met. It appears that we were fated to meet in their company, he says. Help me to my feet. We must escape before they drag us from the sky. You support the magician as he drags the ship's helm. As he grasps the ship's helm. A radiant crystal sphere with hundreds of glowing facets set on a slim silver rod. No sooner has his hand closed around it than there is a tremendous explosion. The explosion is followed by a huge cloud of smoke which engulfs a cabin perched on the rear deck. As the noise rumbles along the desolate salt plain, you hear the agonizing shriek of a wounded crown. It spirals past the platform, a ragged hole rent in its broken wing. So the dwarves have guns? The smoke clears to reveal the grinning face of a dwarf at the cabin window. A smear of soot blackens his rosy cheeks and exaggerates the whiteness of his crooked teeth. He is holding a tube of smoking steel that you assume to be a magic staff, until you notice that each of the dwarves carry identical ones. As they point them at the swooping Kran, gouts of smoke and flame bellow from their tips. You recognize the weapons and their wielders. They are the dwarves from the mountain kingdom of Bor, armed with one of the inventions for which their ingenious artisans are justly famous throughout Magnamund. The Kran are terrified by the noise. They turn their leathery tails and fly away. The Drakim riders powerless to stop them. The primitive guns have claimed only one victim, but they have nevertheless driven the enemy off. and saved the skyship from a disaster. Bane steers the craft around, banking steeply until the ship faces the darkening peaks of the southern mountains and the distinct V-shaped cleft of Dahir Pass. Pick a number from the random number table. Done. The dwarves are clearing the deck of battle debris. A dead Dracoia lies sprawled face down among the piles of chests and sacks roped beneath the boomsaw. As the dwarves grab his leg to cast him over the side, he suddenly springs to life, sending the dwarves tumbling in all directions. He screams like a fiend, his black axe cutting a wide arc around his blood-smeared body. A curse, vile and evil, echoes from his death mask as he draws back the axe. If you have hunting or hit sixth sense, turn to 220. You dive aside, your Kai skill saving you from the axe that was spinning towards the platform. There is a deafening bang, and the Drakkar is flung backwards, his breastplate torn open by the dwarf shot. He gives a long, agonizing death cry as he disappears from sight, tumbling into the darkness that surrounds the speeding skyship. As if in answer to the shot, a menacing roll of thunder rumbles across the darkening plain from Barakesh. It is as if the city itself were cursing your escape. Bane appears at our side, his face lined with concern. He offers a shaky hand to help you to your feet. You notice the makeshift bandage. His wound is soaked with blood. He is pale, close to collapse. We have healing. Clasping your hands around his injured arm, you concentrate your skill on the torn muscle and bone. The warmth of your healing power numbs the pain and repairs the internal damage sufficiently to be able to remove the blood-soaked strips of cloth. The wound is open, but you have saved his limb. "We'll help him now, Lone Wolf," shouts a strange voice. You're surprised by his bold claim and turn around to discover who made it. Two dwarves clamber onto the platform and hurry to their young captain's side. One flicks open a red velvet satchel strapped to his barrel-like chest and removes a glass vial with a clean linen bandage. They attend to the wound and his strength returns. Bane listens intently to your account of the terrifying tales that led to his meeting. As you conclude your woeful tale, Bane speaks, his voice full of grim determination. "The future of Summerlin rests in our hands, Lone Wolf. We must stop Dark Lord Hakken from destroying the Book of the Magnakai. I have heard tell of the tomb of the Mejhan and the nomads of the Dry Main. They say it is a terrible place, a place of horror and death. What little there is left to die there. It lies beyond the Dahir, near the oasis of Bal Loftan. That is all I know, for the Mejhan hid their tombs well. For the Mejhan hid their tombs well, and what few traces remain have long since disappeared beneath the shifting sands of the Dry Main." Your face conveys the disappointment you feel upon hearing these words. "However, all is not lost," says Bane. "There is a man who can guide us there. His name is Tipasa Edarok, Tipasa the Wanderer. It is he whom we must seek, for he is the only man who has ever entered the tomb and lived to tell the tale." Bane takes the helm of his extraordinary ship, the Skyrider, as the dwarves call it. It speeds through the darkness towards the Dahir Pass. Visibility diminishes with each minute until finally you can see no further than the outriggers. You feel uneasy. If the Skyrider veers but a fraction off course, it would be smashed to pieces against the mountainside. "Do not worry, Lone Wolf," says Nolrim, the dwarf with the velvet satchel. "The captain will see us through." Baindam stands with his hand resting lightly on the glowing crystal, relaxed as if in trance. His eyes are closed and a crackle of energy like fine white lightning traces an intricate pattern over his forehead and temples. The dwarves lead you to a cabin at the rear of the craft, the crew excitedly recounting their victory over the Cran riders. They are seated about a table, cluttered with plates of steaming food and jugs of foaming ale. The rich smell of spiced meat and boar brew fills your nostrils, reminding you of how ravenously hungry you are. You make short work of the meat and marrow placed before you. Restore 3 hit points. You are unsure about accepting a jug of ale. Boar brew is so strong that in many cities of Magnamund it has been banned for fear of the havoc that it may cause. Sure, why not? Roll a random number table. Dwarves continue their meal, pausing only to light large-hooded pipes. Through the bluish hue of the pipe smoke that clouds the cabin, you notice that they are casting nervous glances at you, as if you might explode at any moment. After 5 minutes have passed, Nolrim raises his tankard and proclaims to Lone Wolf, a man among dwarves. The dwarves gawf at Nolrim's wry toast and raise their tankards in a salute to your courage and fortitude. The Borbaru has loosened their tongues, and they are eager to tell you of their past exploits. You learn that the dwarves were once the crew of a more conventional vessel, a merchantman that sailed the Tentrius of southern Magnamund. The Tentrius is the vast expanse of lakes and landlocked seas which connect to form a contiguous canal stretching nearly 3,000 miles. They were created, as was the Rime Rift of Duranor, by a massive landslide. 3 years ago, the dwarves' former captain, a dwarf by the name of Quan, lost his ship, cargo and crew whilst gambling at cards. It seems the unfortunate captain was unaware of Bane's true profession until it was far too late. As a result, Bane became the dwarves' captain and has ever since had them adventure with him across the lands and skies of southern Magnamund. The Skyrider itself was given to him by the magicians of Desi, in return for his help in defeating the Gagadoth, a monstrous creature that terrorized their land, over which their own sorcery could not prevail. The Skyrider was travelling from Desi on its way back to Barakesh when you appeared. The dwarves have overheard your talk with Bane and are excited by the prospect of a new adventure. They seem undaunted by the deadly dangers that it will certainly involve. The fatigue of your ordeal finally catches up to you. You find it impossible to keep your eyes open. Nolrim shows you to a bunk of the Skyrider. You climb into bed, pull up the blankets over your aching limbs. He apologizes that it is short, but his words fall on deaf ears. You are already asleep. You wake shortly after dawn to the sound of snoring dwarves and the hum of the Skyrider. Gathering your equipment, you climb on deck to find everything in shadow, for the Skyrider is hovering beneath a massive outcrop of sandstone that juts out from the side of the mountain, thousands of feet above the valley floor below. Bane stands at the helm, though no longer in trance. Kran riders, he says, pointing to the sun-bleached valley beyond the shadows. They arrived with the dawn. You stare out across the alien landscape. A mountain valley filled with pillars of massive and precariously balanced boulders. The Vassagonians call this place the Coos, the Needles. The rocky columns reach so high into the sky that an avalanche seems unavoidable. Perched upon 2 of the columns are Cran, their Dracarim riders scouring the valley with telescopes. An hour passes before they take to the air and disappear. Trim the boomsail, Bosun Nolrim, orders Bangdom, his voice barely audible above the increasing hum of the Skyrider. We have a fast run ahead. I do not have a black crystal cube. The voyage through the Coos is breathtaking. The Skyrider glides between the towers of rock that rise from the valley floor with fantastic and unearthly grandeur. Far below, sulphurous water bubbles from fissures in the orange ground, and streams of hissing lava carve circular channels which glow like motes of liquid fire. You watch the sky, but there are no signs of the enemy. Ikaresh, says Bane pensively. The Eagle's Lair. That is where we will find Tipasa the Wanderer. It is the place of his birth and the home of his family. He roams the dry main, but he always returns there. It is the late afternoon when you reach the hills beyond the Coos that overlook the towns of Ikaresh. Bane moors the Skyrider to a pinnacle of stone, and a rope ladder is lowered to the ground. It is decided that you will enter Icaresh on foot and locate Tipasa, while Nolrum and the crew wait in hiding for your return. The sight of the Skyrider hovering above the mountain town would be sure to arouse unwanted interest. You and Bane prepare yourself for your mission by staining your skins with brown kopala berries. We put on blackface and dress in grey and white robes, commonly worn by the mountain people of this region. You bid farewell to Nolrum and set off across the barren hills. We don't roll 0, 1, or 2. You trudge through the loose red sand, your faces covered to protect them from the dust and the blazing heat. The landscape is stark and desolate. All that seems to thrive here is the wire-hard grass that scratches your boots and leggings. You soon come across a dried riverbed that leads into a cave in the orange sandstone hillside. A wooden plaque is nailed by its mouth to the cave. You are unable to understand the words painted on its sun-blistered surface. Sure, investigate the cave. Rows of stalactites hang from the roof like the fangs of some incredible monster, and the bubbling of a distant geyser echoes eerily through the unknown depths. You begin to explore the cave and reach a place where a natural bridge of rock arches over a streaming course of water, red with ore. Huddled beneath the bridge is a pathetic figure, its body bent and emaciated. A tattered blanket covers his face, and its withered hands clutches a crude fishing rod. A small catch of lava crabs lies on its back, their claws twitching as they slowly die. As you move nearer, the figure raises his face to stare at you. It is a man. The sight of his face shocks you to the core. If you have healing, turn here. The old man's face is a mask of putrescent green sores. The pupils of his eyes are yellow, and his ragged grey lips hang in tatters. He suffers from Vaxillus, an infectious disease that rots the skin and attacks the nerves, resulting in hideous mutilation and deformity. He has been cast out from his community, banished to this cave where we must each eke out his last few days. I do not possess the herb, or I don't wish to give it to him. I don't possess it, so we run away. You race along the rock-strewn cave, eager to escape from the infected old man. The horrific stories that you have heard about the plague thing make you careless in your haste. You lose 2 of your backpack items. Choose which 2. Meal. And I'm going to guess hourglass. Once outside the cave, you and Baindon waste no time in pressing on towards Icaresh. As you near the outskirts of the town, you pass a small, round hut where a goat is eating from a manger near the door. A man appears in the darkened doorway and bids you welcome. He touches his forehand in a salute of friendship and invites you to enter his humble house. If you have the discipline of 6 cents, turn to 365. You sense that the man's show of friendship is genuine. He may be able to help you find Tipasa the Wanderer, if you accept his hospitality. Sure. The man is short of stature, but broad-shouldered and strongly built. Physical characteristics common among the tough mountain dwellers of Vaz Agonia. He pulls a cork from the bottle of lime green wine and pours 3 large measures into earthenware cups. "Koshar!" he exclaims, and downs the wine in a mighty gulp. If you follow his example and drink the strange wine... Sure, let's be friendly. You drink it, it tastes delicious. The warm glow radiates slowly from your stomach, filling you with a sense of well-being. Heal 2 hit points. He looks delighted by your reaction to his wine and offers to sell you a bottle. Sure, what's my money? My money's not doing anything for me in my inventory, except occasionally getting told, "You already have too much money. Why are you picking up more money?" Question him about Tapasa. He replies thoughtfully. Ah, Tapasa. He lives near the Dugger Market. But exactly where his home is I am not sure. I have not seen him for years. If you should find him, tell him of Kamsin the goat herd. He owes me 12 crowns that I have not forgotten. You thank the goat herd for his help and bid him farewell. You follow the path along a dry gully, the bed of an ancient river that once flowed through the mountains. An arid breeze blows eddies of red dust along the banks of the earth. The white-walled buildings of Ikaresh suddenly appeared, and as the dust settles, you find yourself standing in a small square close to an open archway at the town's east gate. Perched upon a tall basalt monolith in the center is an eagle, an emblem of this mountain town, cast in bronze. 3 bronze arrows are held in its beak, each indicating an exit from the square. We were told he's near the Dugger Market, so we will head to the Dugger Market. 40 paces along the street is a barracks, a long, whitewashed building with ugly square windows. A soldier sits dozing in the evening sun with his spear resting across his lap. Some children are tossing hollowed-out lanuma fruit at him, trying to catch them upon the tip of his spear. Opposite the barracks is a tavern with a line of saddled duggars tied to a rail near the main door. The braying of these sand horses rivals the sounds of revelry drifting from the tavern door. So they're camels? If you wish to enter the tavern, if you wish to continue along the street towards the Dugger Market, you pass under an arch where the 2 brass-gilded conical towers gleam like gold, and enter a marketplace crowded with squabbling merchants. Exotic carpets, brightly coloured material, and all manner of foods are bought, sold, and haggled over. The north side of the market is devoted to the auction of duggars. The sleek but noisy desert beasts are being paraded for the benefit of bidders around a paddock. Joining their stables, just past the stables, a street vanishes into the carpet weavers' quarters of Ikaresh. If you wish to investigate the stables, turn to 309. If you wish to ask one of the merchants if they know where Tapasa lives, turn to 248. If you wish to leave the marketplace and continue along the adjoining street, let's ask the merchants. A small, heavy-set merchant is hawking his wares from a stall set close to the archway. His small, beady eyes twinkle from beneath a ridiculously outsized turban. As you approach, he launches himself at you, trying desperately with a flood of wild claims to persuade you to buy his obviously inferior goods. He looks surprised when you interrupt him with his question. Tapasa? Yes, I know where he lives. He holds up a gaudy waistcoat of pink and orange sackcloth and offers it to you. It would make a worthy gift for your esteemed friend, he suggests, his eyes continually glancing at your belt pouch. Only 5 crowns, good master. You realize you will first have to purchase this ridiculous garment before the merchant will tell you where he lives. I will pay the 5 crowns. The merchant's face beams with joy as he pockets your gold. Deduct this from your inventory. The first alley on the left past the stables. He lives in the house with a blue door. You hurry across the crowded marketplace towards the stables and enter the street beyond. As you turn into the rubbish-strewn alley, you see the blue door facing you. There is no reply to your first knock, but you're about to knock again when the door opens a few inches and the red-rimmed eyes of a woman stare at you from the darkness. "Bane!" she exclaims, her voice hoarse and shaky. "Thanks the gods, it is you!" She ushers you both inside and locks the door. The house is sparsely furnished, and what little there is either damaged or broken. "They've taken him, Bane. They've taken my husband. The men with the faces of the dead. 10 days ago they came like shadows in the night." She breaks down, her frail body racked by sobs. Bane comforts her as best he can, but you sense he shares her bitter loss. The Dracarim have taken Tapasa, of that you have no doubt. By now they will have made him tell them everything they know about the tomb of the Majan. We will find him, I promise, says Bane, wiping a tear from the old woman's face, but you must try to help us. He always kept a diary of his travels. Do you have it? A flicker of hope shines in the woman's eyes. Yes, it's here. He told me to hide it when the evil men came. She kneels at the empty fireplace and prizes a loose brick from the chimney. A leather-bound book drops from its hiding place into her hands. She gives it to Bane, who studies the yellow pages, his face lined with thought. You notice that the book is full of cryptic symbols, numbers, and pictograms. They are drawn by the night stars, says Baindom, tracing his fingers along the astronomical drawings. They hold the secret, but without my star charts we cannot hope to find the tomb. We must return to the Skyrider at once. There I shall be able to make sense of the book. You sleep little that night as you lie thinking about the quest that lies before you, haunted by the fear that the Dark Lords may already have found the Book of the Magna Chi. You rise before dawn and breakfast on a meal of sheep's butter and dried milk cake, before bidding farewell to Tapas's wife. The trek back to the Skyrider passes uneventfully, and by noon you have reached the rocky crag where the craft is moored. Nolrim is the first to greet you, but he cannot hide his disappointment that you have returned unaccompanied. Do not worry, the answer lies here, says Bane, holding up the diary. Prepare to set sail. As the Skyrider rides into the clear blue sky, Bane hands over the helm to Nolrim and bids you follow him to his quarters. For 3 hours he pores over his charts, making calculations, checking instrument readings, racking his brain for a solution that will pinpoint the tomb. It is no use. I simply cannot fathom the numbers. As you peer at the pages of the diary, suddenly you realize they are written in code. What Bane had assumed to be positions of the stars is a code to 3 numbers that give you the precise location of the tomb. Consult the map to help you discover the location of the tomb. The first of the 3 numbers is equal to the number of oases on the trail between Ikarash and Bur Riblau. Okay. The first number is the number of oases. I should probably write these down. Number of oases between Ikarash and Bur Rabalu. Number of cities in Vasagonia. Number of islands off the coast of Cape Kabar. When we go look at our map, so between here's Bur Rabau, but where is Irakesh? Or Ikaresh? There is no Ikaresh. There is no Ikaresh. Shenanigans. Ah, there's Ikaresh. Okay. So here, 1, 2, 3, there. So the first number is 3. The number of cities in Vassanagonia. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That seems too many. Maybe cities only count as things with flags? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 question mark? And the number of islands off the coast of Cape Kabar. I mean, it's got to be these 2 islands, right? Or actually, there's 3. 1, 2, 3. No, this is Cape Kabar, which is still 3. So 363? Turn back to the previous section and retry. Yup, you can't have a city if you don't have a flag. Them's the rules. 3, 3. Well, let's just start brute forcing. 1. No. So the trouble here is that the key here doesn't indicate what counts as a city. So is Marrakesh a city? Is Chula a city? Is Cape Kabar a city? Is Rabaul a city? Is Bisutan a city? If we count everything that's like this, then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. But that doesn't make sense because it's meant to be a single-digit number. You know what? Let's just start from 9 and work our way down. Seven was the magic number of cities. So let's go have a look. What could possibly count? Six is the number of ones with flags. Maybe that one somehow also counts as big enough, but the other ones are too small. Yeah, that's a bit poor design. Anyway, that's it! Exclaims Bane, stabbing his finger at the map of the dry main that covers his chart table. 115 miles due west of Bur Rabaul. 115 miles due south of the oasis of Bal Lofton. He picks up a quill and marks the spot. The tomb of the Majhan. You study the map and ponder the miles of desolation separating you from your goal. He notices your look of dismay and quickly tries to put your mind at ease. Fear not. We will be there before the dawn. You smile at his confidence, though it is not just the journey that worries you. It is concern for what you may or may not find upon your arrival. Dawn is breaking on the horizon of a low hill, blurred and dotted with small tufts of trees. Swiftly, the Sky Rider has voyaged through the night to arrive at the foothills of the Konesi Mountains, in whose folds the skyship is safely tucked away from watchful eyes. 20 miles to the north, across a landscape of barren rock and dry brush, lies the tomb of the Majhan. You and Baindon set off before the dawn, anxious not to waste time or the cover of darkness. Now, as the great golden disk of the sun rises in the sky, for the first time you see your goal. A massive excavation has exposed the heart of this scorched land, delving deep around the tombs of its forgotten ancestors. Thousands of Giaks, spiteful and malicious servants of the Dark Lords, labor unceasingly to remove rock and sand from the quarry, forced by Drakerem to drag their back-breaking loads up ramps to the rim of the crater. Close to the edge of the crater, an encampment of black tents surrounds a large domed canopy. Lying in the shade of this construction is a huge flying creature, an imperial Zlanbeast. Its presence here can only mean one thing. Dark Lord Hakon has arrived. The thought chills your blood, but you draw comfort from the labor. You draw comfort from the labor of his slaves. Don't worry, Lone Wolf. They're only slaves. That they continue to labor is a sign that their mission has yet to be completed. The book must not yet have been found. Thank you, Bummer. We'll start that section again. My bad. I coughed and didn't unmute. As far as the eye can see, a long, straight sandstone corridor slopes away in the distance. Torches crackle and splutter on the walls, illuminating the pictograms engraved in the yellow stone. At regular intervals, rough-edged slabs protrude into the main corridor. You stop to take a look at these slabs and the floor beneath, and come to a frightening conclusion. They are obviously traps, no doubt set off by the Giax when they cleared the corridor of sand. Rather than instructing the Giax to avoid them, the Dark Lords deliberately used their slaves to set them off. When the Dark Lords find the enemy tomb filled with traps, their Giax slaves advance as if there were no traps. Once the traps have been sprung, the squashed bodies were cleared away and slabs chiseled through to the next section. Pit traps in the floors seem to have been neutralized in a similar manner, set off by luckless Giax that were then filled in with the dead bodies and leveled off with sand. The thought of this heartless barbarity fills you with revulsion. Just over a mile along the corridor, you eventually arrive at a large stone door. The stone surrounds bear evidence of chisel work, but the doors itself is rock solid. You notice a faint beam of light descending from a hole in the ceiling. It creates a circular pool of light a little to one side of a similar hole in the floor. In the wall near the door there is a triangular indentation, no larger than a gold crown. We do possess a prism. Holding the prism in the center of the beam, you divert the light towards the hole in the floor. You hear the sound of stone grating on stone as the door slowly opens to reveal a large chamber. It is dimly lit, but in it, the dust that covers the marble floor, you can see the footprints too numerous to count. As you enter, you suddenly catch sight of a rough stone throne, facing the wall on the far side of the chamber. Behind you, the door slides shut with unnerving speed. The throne begins to revolve. A terrible howling fills your ears, changing almost instantaneously to the growling of a harsh, guttural language, the likes of which you have never heard. Words and sounds that the mouths of men could never shaped roll through the chamber like thunder. It is the Dark Tongue, spoken by Hakon, Lord of Anarak, Dark Lord of Helgedad. He rises from the throne, the ghastly voice still echoing from his unnatural mouth. A spiked fist opens to reveal a glowing stone. Blue flame smolders around its surface. You can feel the currents of power that radiate from its core. Suddenly his words change and you hear a tongue you know too well, Summerlending. Look upon your doom, Kai Lord. There is a deafening crack and a surge of power as a fireball hurtles towards your head. We have the Summer Sword. We use parry. You raise the golden sword in time to deflect the bolt of energy. It screams from your blade and explodes into the chamber wall, gouging a hole several feet deep in the steel, hard rock. The impact jars the Summer Sword from your hand. The blade arcs through the dust-choked air and embeds itself upright in the stone floor. You roll across the floor and take cover behind a pillar. Your doom is but seconds away. I want the sword. You run half-crouched towards the golden blade. You continue at full speed. A burst of energy leaps from his fist, exploding into the base of the pillar, severing it from the floor. A tremendous roar fills your ears as you are thrown backwards. You lose endurance. He laughs. He fills your head with pain. You scream for the agony to cease. You are still alive. Suddenly the pain subsides, but the onslaught has only just begun. Can we please use one of our potions of healing? Use. Yes. That thing has so much health that it is worrying. I'm going to eat another potion. Okay, we're at full health for this fight. Oof. Suddenly the pain subsides, but the onslaught has only just begun. A mist as black as the grave is seeping from Hakon's mouth. It creeps along his outstretched arms and settles in a cloud in the palm of his upturned hand. Whirling shadow shapes draw into focus. Wings and tentacles sprout and take form. A curse in the Dark Tongue shakes the whole chamber as the deadly flood of horrors hurtle from his hand. Crypt Spawn. Go. 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 So we're at like... We're at 3/4 health. If you win combat, turn here. You slay the last of the Crypt Spawn. Hakon reels back as if weakened by the death of his creatures. You raise the Summer Sword, willing the blade to discharge a bolt of power that burns the evil Dark Lord from the face of Magnamund forever. The blade shimmers with golden fire, but no searing blast issues from its tip. You realize what has happened. You are beneath the earth, and there is no sun from which the sword can draw forth its power. Hakon utters a terrible laugh and shakes the floor. A beam of blue flame is glowing on the stone in the stone in his hands, forming a fiery blade that crackles and spits as it cuts through the dust-choked air. The stench of death and decay fills your nostrils as he prepares to attack. Unless you have Mind Shield, reduce your combat skill by 2. So he is barely less skillful and has more health. Ow. Oh, we're doing more damage, though. Oh, yeah, we should be fairly safe. Phew. You examine the floor where Dark Lord Hakon fell, but there are no signs of his body. The atmosphere is strangely calm and peaceful, as if a great and evil shadow had been lifted. If you lost the Summer Sword in the confrontation with him, you may now retrieve it. You turn and walk to the throne where he sat, waiting for you to appear. Beyond it lies a portal, an ancient inscription carved deep into the blood-red stone. Below the carving is a set of impressions of a human hand. Instinct and intuition guides your hand to the door. The carving fits around it like a glove. Silently, the portal slides back to identify your destiny, the Book of the Magnakai. Set on a pedestal, the book lies open, its secrets revealed to your eyes. As you lift the sacred book, the very air throbs with a vibration of force locked within its sun-golden cover. With a pounding heart, you close the book and hurry from the chamber. By the time you reach the foothills of the Kaneshi, Bane has successfully completed his mission. He and Tipasa are waiting for you. As they see you appear, clutching the Book of the Magnakai, they can barely contain their excitement. This night is one of triumph, says Bane, jubilantly. It will herald a new dawn of hope for Summerland. The Kai can be reborn. Your quest is now over. You have found the Book of the Magnakai and free Magnamund from the shadow of Dark Lord Hakon. But for you, High Master Lone Wolf, the story has only just begun. Your destiny lies along the path of the Grand Masters, to learn their secrets and attempt the first exciting quest of the Magnakai. Begin your journey with Book 6 of Lone Wolf, entitled The Kingdoms of Terror. Alright, and we have a book without a death. We're running above par. Below par. Woo! Although if that last 2 combats had have gone worse, I remember dying to those last 2 combats as a kid. Okay. Join us next time for Book 6. Oof. That said, my voice is getting raspy. So, I might call that for now. Go take Doggo for a nice walk. Have a bit of a break. I might return with some more in the evening, or we might just play something else. We'll see. Or I might take a full break and do a whole bunch of admin-y stuff. Create YouTube cover art and blah blah blah. In any case, thank you for hanging out. I hope you have had a lovely time. I certainly have. I feel like these were a bit better than the first book or two. A bit less cliched. Who is up and around that I can throw you to? Cal is still up. I'll throw you happily along to Cal. Cool. Catch you all laters, Gators. Have a lovely day all.